just so everybody knows, we are being recorded, so make sure that you want it to be online, whatever you say. Apologies for absence, Rhiannon.
Yes, I've had apologies from Councillor Rigby and Cheryl Wells.
I've got Councillor Arnold in place, yeah? Okay, thank you. Item 2, the minutes. Has anybody got anything to say on the minutes of the last meeting? No? Everybody happy? Okay, thank you. Item urgent business. I haven't got any. Rhiannon, have you? No? Okay. Item 4, declarations of interest. Has anybody got any for this meeting? No? Just to let everybody know, we are bringing Councillor Jeffries' item 8 before the police, so that we're giving Councillor Jeffries 40 minutes and then we stop, so that we'll have the police on after that. Okay, Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Chairman. So I think, as before, we've changed the system slightly to help members of committees and backbenchers. I'm just happy to take questions, and then there's 40 minutes of questionings rather than me waffling.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jeffries. The only thing I've got is obviously the brown bin, but in my area they did get collected on the Saturday, so I don't think people waited that long. There may be, you can give us an update on that. I know there's problems with drivers and things like that. Perhaps you can give us a bit more detailed on why. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So we have suffered. We had the reset. We had a number of issues with protesters, which closed a lot of the roads around the depot. Couldn't get lorries in, couldn't get lorries out, and that did have a knock-on effect. So we were roughly 2 days behind. We took the decision today, and comms, I believe, has now gone out. I saw it earlier. So from tomorrow, we will be collecting Wednesday's... No, what's tomorrow? Yeah, Wednesday. We'll be collecting Wednesday's brown bins. So if your brown bin was due to be collected tomorrow on a Wednesday, it will be collected. Any that we've missed, which will be, for example, Monday and Tuesday's brown bins, will be collected by Saturday. So we're asking residents to leave them out, and they will be collected with the additional services that we put in on Saturday. Some of the issues that we've been facing is recruitment. We have had some success in recruiting both drivers and loaders, but unfortunately, as I was hearing today, as quickly as we're recruiting them, people are leaving for a variety of reasons, whether it be through old age. They've come to a point where they no longer want to do the job anymore. They take on the job, and I think Darren will correct me if I'm wrong, we had 8 people start. One of those, after doing a shift, came in and said it wasn't for them. I fully understand that. It's not a job that everyone wants to do. So we are in a really difficult market of recruiting. Additional resources have been put in to recruit more drivers, more loaders. We're doing a lot of work within the depot to try and retain the staff that we've got to make sure that they're valued. And I'm reasonably confident that moving forward we will, barring block roads, more protesters, the services will start to improve and be where we want them to be.
Andrew, have we looked at other boroughs to see if they're in the same trouble we are, or is it just pertaining to Thurrock at the moment?
So, not necessarily neighbouring boroughs, but there are other areas around the country that are suffering the similar sort of problems that we're having, struggling to recruit drivers, struggling to recruit loaders as well. So, yeah, there are other areas that are suffering this.
Thank you. Councillor Meldowney.
Thank you, Chair. So obviously the refresh hasn't been successful. I think last time you were here I asked you about contingency planning and you said that it hadn't been possible to do that for the protesters. So obviously we're in a situation now where there are repeated protesters. So what contingency planning is now in place to minimise disruption to local residents?
So as you're well aware, I mean, it's very difficult to have contingency plans for the kind of protesters that we've got and for the way that we're dealing with them. If somebody wants to glue themselves to a road just outside the depot, there's very little we can actually do. We don't have a site elsewhere in the borough that we could, say, keep half the fleet and get the crews to go out of there. What we've got to do is rely on the police clearing the protesters as quickly as possible, which I think they are doing now. We've seen that with those that were on the M25. And as quickly as possible then get the crews out and get the rubbish collected.
So, I mean, if there's no protesters there at the moment, obviously, there's no protesters there at the moment that are impacting up. Yes, we're still not collecting brown bins, and there's, well, the website says that grey, green and blue bins were not collected on Monday. So
that's not quite true, actually, to suggest that we're not collecting grey, blue and brown bins. That's not true.
Well, that's what it says on the website.
And I don't believe that's what it does say on the website. As I've just said on brown bins, we are collecting brown bins. We're 2 days behind. We took the decision today that moving forward we will collect Wednesday's bins, Thursday's bins, Friday's bins, and then use the Saturday as the catch-up. With regard to blue and general waste bins, there will always be bins that won't be emptied. We'll have blocked access, we'll have lorry breakdowns, we'll have shortages of staff. There'll always be a reason that we'll miss some bins. Primarily, over the last week, I would say where we have missed recycling and general waste, it's been through blocked access, and within 24 hours, crews have gone back and then emptied them. The ones that you're referring to on the website, it's letting people know that we've missed them. And again, like I say, it's probably through blocked access. And Darren's here, and I'm sure, again, correct me if I'm wrong. They will be collected within 24 hours.
Okay, but at the moment we've got green and the other change that I noticed on the website was that you're now saying it's not possible to come back if you can't report it doesn't let you report if the whole street's been missed. You can only report your individual bin, but that there'll be nobody coming back to collect it. You have to wait till your next scheduled collection day. Is that right?
So forgive me if I'm wrong, Councillor Muldowney, but I think you've been briefed both by the Director and I've certainly mentioned it on numerous occasions, but I'll happy to be corrected. I think the Labour group weren't there when we talked about bins at full council last time, and that is we are reviewing the whole process. It's not acceptable that if your bin's missed, you can't report it. That's not acceptable. You know, the hoops that we're asking people to jump through, it's got to be missed on three occasions on 3 weeks, and then there's got to be a Y in the month or whatever. That's not acceptable. We are reviewing the whole system, which I think this committee's been told about, and we want to make it possible that if a bin is missed, people can report it and they get an answer as to why their bin was missed and when it will be collected. But like with any waste service, if we miss one bin in one road, for whatever reason, it may not always be possible to send a crew back. But what I would like to do at some point in the future, when we get the service where we want it to be, is that we can have a catch-up team going out collecting those bins. But that's some way off. If we've missed the whole street, we're aware we've missed the whole street, and we go back within 24 hours to clear that street.
Well, hopefully we'll get some more information in the written report that comes to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you. Hello, Andrew. I know you're having a lot of difficulties at the moment, and I can accept a lot of it, but I haven't had my bin done for a few weeks, and I did a little survey around my area, and the Hall Avenue estate, the brown bin's stuck outside our gates all the time. So now I've got a compost heap on wheels. So it'll be steaming soon. But no, it's not funny. But When do you reckon the Hall Avenue estate will get their brown bins done? I'm lost now when we should have them collected and when we shouldn't, because they keep saying, oh, if we leave it out, it'll be collected on a Saturday. So now we're just leaving they're permanently stuck outside our gates. So can you give any update on that, please, Andrew?
Yeah, and I apologise to all the residents that their bin hasn't been collected. I can't tell you. I don't know if Darren's looking now to see what week it is. So we need to look at what week, whether it's week 1 or week 2, and which day it's normally collected. So Darren's probably having a look, and I'll then be able to answer that question. Yeah.
Not this week coming, but the following week is the next with the brown bin. So I'll do it for you, Darren. All right. Councillor Byrne.
I've got a couple, if that's okay. First of all, recruitment. Is that on the payroll or is that agency?
From when would it have been? May. The directorate was made pretty clear that these have got to be payroll people. We can't get the loyalty, we can't get the staff that want to work with us if they're permanently on agency. So there was a push to reduce the agency. Unfortunately, as we've recruited people and they've left, as I said earlier on, we have had to go back to agency. But there is an ad being refreshed as we speak to recruit more people rather than agency.
How are complaints recorded? So if, say for example, I complain about something and the council will come back and say it's your fault, like you're blocked or whatever, is that still recorded as a complaint?
Honest answer, don't know. It's not appropriate the way it's recorded. And if your bin's been missed and you report your bin's been missed, you do not want a reply that says case closed, we'll collect it next time. It's got to be investigated, it's got to be looked into, and people have got to get a satisfactory response, which is the work that we're doing at the moment. It's taken a bit longer than I wanted to, but we should be in a place where if you report a bin as a councillor, it's recorded as a missed bin. If you report it as a resident, don't double count it, but it's reported as a missed bin. Now, I'm fully aware that that is going to make our figures look atrocious. It really will. They'll drop, they'll fall like a stone. But at least it's an accurate record, and we're not getting silly figures like 99.8% of bins were collected on time, because everyone knows that's not the case. We need to have accurate figures so that you as a committee can scrutinise properly.
Okay.
Because I've never, ever had the council come back and say it's our fault. Every single, it's exactly the same typing, it's exactly the same phrase. It was blocked, it was never, ever. Though you prove it, let's say it's the resident's fault, it was blocked. At my house, for example, missed 3 times. They come back to me and said, the driver said the road was blocked. It's actually impossible to block where I live, you can't do it. You'd have to have like 10 buses. So, but they still come back and say, it was your fault, you blocked it. So that is never ever, in 3.5 years, they've never put around up and said, it was our fault, ever. So that needs to change.
So one of the things that I'm keen on is the Bartek system we've got allows us to actually take photographs. And a long time ago, I said to protect our workforce from false accusations that the road wasn't blocked and they could have gone down. We should be taking photographs. It's not happening. It should be, and that's one of the things that I'm determined to improve. Because if they come back and say the road was blocked, they should be able to send you a picture of the car that was blocking the road. And if they can't do that, then investigate why it's been said that it was blocked. And that does 2 things. One, it gives you reassurance that you're getting accurate information. But more importantly, it protects the crew that are out there from somebody saying the road wasn't blocked. They can actually prove that it was blocked.
Thanks, Andrew. I was just going to say that about the cameras. I have two pictures sent to me, so it does work. On occasions, it does work. But if you put yellow lines in, which refuse asked to have put in, and then people park on it, it's not going to be their fault, is it? It's the people who park. They know their bin's going to be collected that morning. Just shift your car. It's not rocket science. And as Councillor Burns said, even if one person reports it, they can't report the whole street because they don't know whether the whole street's been done or not. So you can only go out and report your own bin. So, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I don't want to drill down on any too hard because I know you're working extremely hard to get this get the service back where it needs to be. Obviously, this issue's been going on for a long time now. I mean, to actually just picking up on a couple of points earlier on, I mean, our bins have not been emptied for weeks. And I actually did a little drive around today. Actually, a lot of people, well, the whole of the road that I live hasn't been collected. But the curious thing was, when I was laying in bed this morning, I actually heard a bin lorry coming round. I thought, they're here. But so that's why I sort of looked up and down the road today, and they're all still full. So do the bin crews actually do selected roads, you know, maybe cul-de-sacs off of a big road? I mean, do they target certain roads if they know they're not going to be able to do the full pick on the day? Do they actually then target roads in particular? Do you know what I mean? And then maybe then leave one long run. Is that happening?
So just to be clear, we're talking about just the brown bin.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So no, they have the route. The route is the route they should follow, and they should empty all of those bins on that route. Some of the work again that's going on is about route optimisation. So it's changing the routes to make them more balanced, so that the lorry can complete that round, and it makes more sense as we've built new houses and new estates come along, and new. So that work is ongoing, and we're hoping that I don't think we've got a time frame of when that should be finished, but sometime next year we should have all the routes how they should be. Some are happening now, aren't they? Some are being introduced, and the workforce are welcoming it because they can see a better way of collecting the waste, and they're reporting that back, and we can then feed that into the system as well and make sure that they're happy with the route that they're being sent on.
Okay, and it's curious because, like I say, I was hoping to get up this morning and see my bin emptied, and it seems the whole road still hasn't been done. And obviously,
so perhaps Thurrock could look at that one as well.
Branksome Avenue, and there's a large.
Central Avenue.
There's a large.
And Grange Road.
There's a large part of the homesteads hasn't been done.
We could give a rose of most of Thurrock, couldn't we? So.
I mean, that.
Might as well say the lot.
My brown bin was empty this week.
Oh, lucky you. You're lucky.
I mean, that aside, the sort of the most frustrating thing I find is, I mean, I permanently leave a bin out. It's been out there for easily a couple of months now. I know we had the break, etc., but it's easier for me now just to leave it. I do notice that a lot of people do the same, but I also notice people actually, if they find that their bin hasn't been collected, like mine should have been this Monday, they're now pulling them back in. So they never know actually when to put it back out. It's like a kind of a game of taking the bins in and out, in and out. But where I'm actually getting to this is,
your bin was due to be collected on Monday.
Yes.
So as I said earlier on, that will now be collected by Saturday.
Yeah.
No. Tomorrow we're collecting the bins that should be collected tomorrow, because otherwise it's just everyone's out by a day, and we get this situation that people don't know when their bins were meant to be emptied. So if we collect the bins that should be collected tomorrow, by the time we get to the weekend on Saturday, we then go out and collect those that should have been collected on Monday and Tuesday.
Right. I mean, I will reiterate. I know you're doing your damnedest to get this thing sorted out. But the most frustrating thing I find is maybe the messaging that's coming out from Thurrock Council. People do not know what is going on. I mean, if I didn't know the issues surrounding this, I would probably pull my bin back in tomorrow. Lo and behold, the bin lorry turns up. There's no bin. There is no messaging coming out about these collections. Albeit this may be a temporary period. Hopefully, it may only go on for X amount of time. But during this time, residents need to know whether that lorry is going to turn up and empty their bin. Otherwise, they're putting them away, missing that collection, and everybody's missing out again. So I think you definitely need to look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Take your point, Councillor. And we're doing a lot of work with comms. We're trying to update the website, which I know that some people don't access, but the information is there, and it's difficult, as Councillor Jeffries has said. You know, we're trying to get up to speed as quick as we can, but in the instance, I'll give you the example of you are week 2 on Monday, which is Monday just gone. We're going to be collecting. It is. You're right. Yeah. You're right. One is week 1 Monday, and the other is week 2 Monday. So those people that miss collections on Monday and Tuesday, we're asking them to keep their bins out. We know we're coming back on Saturday, but you know, if there's a chance that we can get them before Saturday, of course we will. So that's why we're urging people to keep them out, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. That won't be the case in all instances. It's just because we're behind at the moment. So, and I know it's not convenient and it's not, you know, it's not appropriate, but you know, for this period, until we get over this period, we're just asking people to keep them out, and we'll get them collected.
Thank you, Darren. Councillor Muldowney was before.
Thank you, Chair. Just to touch back on other local authorities having problems, I know that no other local authority in Essex has had to cancel services because of the shortage of drivers, so I just wanted to flag that up. I'm not sure where people are having problems, but it's certainly not in our local area. I have to agree with what Councillor Arnold says, and I have requested sort of in my meetings with Julie that there is better messaging coming out of the council, because part of the frustration that people are feeling, I absolutely agree with Councillor Arnold, is that they just don't know what's going on. So I understood there was a bit of pushback on that from comms in terms of capacity, so I don't know if we've got any update on that, but you know, I think there really needs to be there needs to be better communication, and that will stop a lot of the bad feeling that there is, because obviously you've press release to say that the reset was a success, and then people still aren't getting their brown bins collected. So you know, there's a lot of frustration out there, and I think some of it could be helped or solved by actual better communication from the council. So please, if we can sort that out, that would be good. Thank you.
If I can come back on that, I'm slightly disappointed because we have actually made quite a big effort to get comms out. I've certainly been pushing for it. It's been done on Facebook, Twitter, and on the council website. And I agree the council website isn't always accurate, but certainly Facebook and Twitter, we've tried to get out as much information as possible. And I realise not everybody is on those 2 social medias, but I take on board what you say, and I agree. Comms can always be improved, and we will look at it.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, I was just going to say what you said, but sorry, Darren, just a minute. I think sometimes even with the call centre needs to get more information up there, because I think the call centre just hasn't got the information that we need to get to someone. Doesn't matter what it is, and I think they need information given to them, because they could probably get rid of a lot of the information that you're trying to get out there, you know, and they're not given the information. It's either we haven't got it or we can't find it, or you know, and I think that does you a disservice as well. And I do so think you must have one of the hardest portfolios, Andrew. I feel very sorry for you, because that is the portfolio that people see with their eyes. We was talking about it on a meeting last night. Social media gone up. Corringham's opened a new medical centre. That went right the way down. Nobody was really bothered, but the bins make a difference. You know, and it's what people see, like grass cutting bins. It's what they see with their eyes. The first thing they see is their bin. And I think we're a nation of, we don't praise when it works. You know, and the bin men go out there and do a pretty good job, really, half the time. And there's no praise going out there. But when it goes wrong once, we're in there, you know, as residents. Because we're all residents. We all put up with the same problems that everybody else has. And I think there needs to be sometimes a little bit of praise coming in to give the people who work there a little bit of, you know, just, oh, we are doing a good job, you know, no matter how you keep telling them to do. But perhaps, you know, dare I say, perhaps you and Darren should go out there with them and see how it works, because I follow them around sometimes, but it's how you do it, Darren, isn't it? You have to be out there. I mean, I go out there and see them. I go out there and, yeah, I know you do, and I've been out watching them, and they're smoking away with rubbish, with recycling, and you think that doesn't wear well with people when they see it happening on the streets, you know, or they'll get hold of a bin and they'll sling it over the other side. You know, that's not good. You know, worse when we had the blue boxes. Do you remember the blue boxes? They used to be just slung across the road in front of an oncoming car, you know. But we've moved on from there. But I do think you know, hopefully it's going to get better. And we need, perhaps when we get to January, we'll have a better take on the whole lot, you know, give you a chance. Councillor Byrne, did you want to come back in?
Yes. Is there a different world with trade waste, because you have to pay for it, than our actual bins? Because as far as I'm concerned, the trade waste is a different world. They answer the phone, they're lovely, they speak to you. If you want it picked up at 9:04 on a Monday morning, they will pick it up 9:04 on a Monday morning. They are excellent. I've never ever had, since 1988, I've had not one bin miss from trade waste. If I go back to 1988 for where I live in bins, and so is it different people, different management? Because can they learn from the trade waste? Because it's a different world.
Yeah, of course, Councillor. It's they form part of the waste operations makeup of our team, but they're a very small team. They're only 2 vehicles, which makes it a lot easier to manage and to get resourced. Yeah, I mean it's a different sort of beast when you're only collecting refuse and recycling as those trade waste teams do, and it's easier to control. But they are part of the same team, so we expect everybody to be the same, and we mix and match with them as well. But of course, they do good.
So it's just nothing to do with you pay £15 and they pick it up, or your bins are already paid for. So it doesn't matter if you pick them up or not, does it? So it's not a money thing, because if they don't come to me, they don't get their £15, do they? So, but bins, it's all our rates, so it's already paid for, isn't it? So is the service improved because it's about cash and cash flow?
It's more about the resource available. Of course, we resource up for trade waste, as we do for recycling and for refuse. And unfortunately, you know, garden waste always gets a bit of a hammering because you know, depending on the time of year, grass may not be growing as much as others. So it's unfortunate that, you know, it's that area that we tend to reduce service if we have to, because we have to collect refuse and we have to collect recycling. So you know, we're trying to get back on track as quick as we can, as Councillor Jeffries has said. We made a decision today to go to collections for Wednesday tomorrow, and Saturday we'll be collecting Mondays and Tuesdays that we've missed. So, you know, I'm going to get back on track as soon as possible.
Just before I bring Councillor Pearce in, it was brought up at housing, Andrew, that where we've got certain places where we've got 10 flats, you know, it means 30 bins, of having like 3 big bins in that area. Surely that, has it got to be collected by a different truck? Does that make it awkward? Is it something we could trial though to do? I've got them in my area where I've got 10 flats in areas, or 15 flats, and you think 15 times 3 or 4 is a lot of bins, you know. And to me, they've all got back ways where they could stand the bins against the wall and make it easier.
They've all got individual bins.
They've all got individual bins. It's like
Perhaps
30 and 40, and it makes such a lot. It's a lot of bins to collect, and if you've got, you know, I'm just going by the one that's got 10 or 12 in, you know, 12, 3, 30. It makes a lot of bins just in that area, and to put them out in a little sideway is an awful lot of bins. You're talking about 70 bins in the area, which is an awful lot of bins. To me, I think we should be, it was brought up housing. I don't know if housing took it through, but they're not all council flats, so they are, and everybody's paying for their collection. But I just thought it was something we could look at to lower it for the men that are collecting, whether it means that we collect the flats with a different lorry or whatever. I don't know. You must collect
with the private
high-rise,
with the private flats. It'll be the managing agents that arrange that, whether it's individual bins or large bins. But we could certainly look at it. The only thing I'd say is people are very protective of their bins, and if you're going to take their bins away and give them a big bin,
we might be worth doing a consultation just to,
you're
see
right.
how
No,
they feel.
we can look at it. Yeah.
I just thought it's a lot of bins in one small area. I counted it up the other day. It came to over 70, 80 bins in one little area. And to me, that's a lot of bins, and we seem to be making work for ourselves and for our guys, you know. And it might be that you might just go there once a week and just collect that, you know, those bins. It might be that they're mostly council flats, you know, but we do it with a high rise, so why can't we do it with that are only 2-storey or 3-storey? You know, it might be worth a trial run, you know. Okay, thank you, Councillor Pearce.
Thank you. I know that the bin collectors are on a time schedule, probably they've got to get round but they collect the bins from our gateways, but when they come to bring them back, they don't bring them back to our gateways. They're on car parking areas. They're strewn up there, or you've got to go up there and collect it. You know, is there a way that I know it's time consuming, but can they bring it nearer to people's houses rather than strewn across the road or, you know, car parking areas?
I'll pick this one up, Councillor, if that's okay. Yeah, absolutely. Wherever they get them from, they should be returning them from, so we can pick those up individually if there is issues. There have been issues in the past, but you know, they should return them to the curtilage or to the areas in which they've collected them from. I mean, they may not necessarily put them directly back in the exact same spot, but they should be there within reason, Councillor. So I shall pick that one up. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'll pick that up individually with you after, if that's okay. Just to pick your point up on Central Avenue, Averley, isn't it? Yeah. Week 2 on Friday, so it should be this Friday. Yeah.
What's that Grange Road?
We just let Darren look it up for you.
Just
Yeah.
send me it all. Oh, we've got some work here.
I'll give you all the roads, Darren. Can you pass it all on to us?
Yeah, can you pass
That's the same, Councillor. Week 2 Friday.
Just going back on something Andrew said a little earlier on about things going out on Twitter and Facebook and all the old gumph that goes out there. There's an awful lot of elderly out there who don't do anything like that. They wouldn't even look on our comms because they haven't got the facilities to use. And just one other thing, there is elderly people, sort of in their 80s, 90s, they can get their bin taken out and brought back, you know, and I think a lot of them don't know that system's there to use, so it might pay councillors to, you know, if they've got any real elderly people who can't manage. I know you get good neighbours and, you know, it's a good thing, but if they know that system is there to be used, you know, it's quite good. Did you want to come back, Darren?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, Councillor. If people are in that situation, if they contact the contact centre, they'll get sent a form that needs to be filled in just to make sure that they're eligible for assisted collections, and we'll take that forward and add them to the list. Absolutely.
Councillor Arnold?
Oh, I've kind of missed my moment now, actually. I'm just by a couple of minutes. I was going to point out, actually, that I mean, the blue and the green bin collection is exceptional, I find, actually. It's always on time. It's always early for us. We seem to be sort of an early part of the route. And the bins always go back to where they need to be. So that's the balance of it. It's absolutely true.
It's our blue bins.
I mean, I have got another question which isn't about bins. Now that the bird nesting season is over, is there any intention to catch up with the hedge trimming and the tree crowning?
Yeah, that's all right. So yes, there's a programme in place, and he's not here. Otherwise, I'd have turned to Vince. Is he online? Oh, right, okay. So grabbing when it's on it, but there is a programme in place that should work. The only thing that delays it is, so for example, obviously the crews are multitasking. So if we have to, grit roads, or if there's a fallen tree or whatever, if there's something that takes them away, but there is that programme and it should be there. And I would like, Darren's going to look at me because I haven't told him this before, but I would like advance notice. I'd like councillors to start to know that we'll be in their area, week commencing whatever, and so that that work is going to start happening. We did a big exercise on identifying trees. So, for example, on the Flowers estate in my ward, the work, they went around, looked at the trees, and they graded them all. And I think, is it 3 grades? So that ones that need doing now, ones that can be done next year, ones that can be done the year after, and that's been done across the whole borough. So we're in a good position to know what we should be doing. We just now need to get that programme in place. But Vince will be able to give you more details on that when he comes online.
I can update you a little bit more on that. I mean, seasons are changing, and everybody's noticing that the grass is growing later and later, and we're starting cutting earlier and earlier, and it's just the way the world is at the moment. But so we're finding that we're cutting. Normally, you could set your watch by where the grass will start growing in sort of March and end in September. Now we're finding that we're now cutting grass in October and even November. So we're still out cutting grass now, which is very strange. Normally, we would start our winter maintenance in October when the grass season's finished, but the teams are now getting stretched to do more grass cutting. But as Andrew quite rightly says, it is on schedule. We will be out doing our winter maintenance work, and I'll work with what Councillor Jeffries has asked and notify councillors in advance of when we're in the area. We can't give some specific locations, but we can certainly say when we're in the area. And Andrew's right with regards to tree maintenance. It's over a 5-year period, so we've identified all of the trees in the borough have been surveyed, and they've been graded as Andrew quite rightly says, and we will work for over a 5-year period to make sure that the maintenance on those trees are carried out.
Okay, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, if the more information members have, the more beneficial it is for the residents, obviously, because we all get calls about trees, etc., etc. I mean, is there any way that information again could be given to the general public on a website? So there's a program, so they actually know when crews are in the area, when they're doing work, how they can maybe sort of interact with you better to actually get their area clean, trimmed, cut, whatever.
Yeah, I can certainly speak to the web team. To see if we can do that. Again, it will be in areas, so we can say that we're in the Agley area or the South London area or wherever we are in those months. So I can certainly speak to the web team so they're saying that they can look at.
Yeah, because I mean, this is all good proactive comms, isn't it? I mean, the more information you give to residents, ultimately the happier they're going to be. Hopefully, so they need to know. They need to be advised of these things in advance. But thank you.
Can I just come in and say Liz Woods does a brilliant job. It's I think she's doing her level best out there with the staff she's got, and we've lost about 85 to 100 trees in that bad weather we had back, and obviously we have to replant them. If I've put we put loads of trees as I've started the whole thing with the trees. Whenever I put a tree in, I just make sure that the person waters them who's having it put outside their home, so look after it, please. It's all we're asking. Just give it a little drop of water every now and again. But we've lost an awful lot of trees, so we need to get them back. Yeah, she is good. I've got, I can't give her anything else but praise. She does a level best, with, I think she's got 3 staff. That's it. And I don't think sometimes we contemplate how big Thurrock is from one end to the other. It's a big place, and to have to keep that going, a bit of praise to go back to her, Darren. I think means a lot. She will help you whenever you ask. So a little bit of praise goes a long way.
Yeah, happy to do that, Councillor. I'll certainly do that tomorrow. I'll send you an email.
Councillor Byrne.
Yes, just looking at your remit. Waste and recycling. Can I ask questions on that? Was this? Oh right. Well, I come to this meeting, I believe, from Julie Rogers and other people, that we don't have single-use plastic in this building, which I noticed over there. We have got single-use plastic. And I I can't believe the chair's got a single-use plastic bottle when we're supposed to be encouraging eco-green. I'm just shocked, really. So, sorry, that may cause a bit of
That's
controversy.
all right.
But
I usually use a bottle like that, but
I'm
that was just
absolute-
what I grabbed as I came out.
I'm shocked. I couldn't believe it when I walked in. I thought we're taking recycling and
But
that's
then I
like the
fill
food.
that up, so we use it again. So
Well, it's just
it's
if
my
we're on
choice.
if we're on camera. It's just I think the residents will be shocked. I was so, and I'm a resident. So there you go.
So we have got a policy in place to reduce single-use plastics. I don't know, Darren, are you able to? So well, I'll take that up because, like I said, we've got a policy of reducing single-use plastics, and that's meant to be implemented in place. I don't know why.
Rogers told me it's 100% banned. Do you know? Oh, facilities.
Yeah, facilities. Yeah.
Okay, right.
But you're right, and we'll take it. You know, we'll take it back. They shouldn't be there. You're right. They shouldn't be there. Yeah.
As long as we're sitting on the committee and sitting with boys and
There are many times we've sat on this committee and said that it's down to shops. First of all, shops have got to stop selling. But while shops sell it, people will they'll still buy it. So I've got them all over the place. I just grabbed that as I came out tonight. But I do fill it up and reuse it.
Yeah.
But I think we've got to get to shops. You know, big stores.
But Darren's just said he'll pick that up with facilities.
Yeah. We've gone over our 40 minutes, so I just want to thank you, Andrew, for all the questions that have been shoved at you. I would have liked some sporting or leisure things to have gone through, but we've spent time on this, so perhaps you'll come back again with the sport. That we can have perhaps the sports strategy and what's happening to that, you know, and what is going on with the sports strategies. Perhaps we can have that back in January, whatever.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Pardon? Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for all your questions. I hope we've, you know, taken it all on board, which we have. I think we're quite a good committee for looking at it, you know. So I think it's, as I say, it's not an easy job to keep together, you know. And I think we've got to remember that Thurrock is a big place. It is a big place to do, you know, and to get done. But if you're making the streets a bit easier to go round, then that's got to be anything that makes the job easier has got to be better, hasn't it? So thank you, Andrew. Sorry, it's Chuckwell.
Just one more question, Jeffrey. You know, the brand beans, is this the fortnightly collections, or have you changed the dates?
So brown bins are fortnightly. They have been for a couple of years now. So yes, fortnightly collections, and the details are on the website. You're either week 1 or week 2. If you just look for the street name, and it will tell you which week you're on. And at the moment, we are on week 2. It's week 2 at the moment.
I am the new boy on this committee, but I'm sure people know me. I'm not ever going to hold back and not ask these questions that people are thinking. So if it upsets people, I don't really care. But so that's me. This is going to be me for every meeting. If I see something that I don't like, then I'm not going to think. I'm going to shy away from it, because if you're not asked, if you don't ask questions, if you don't learn anything, we don't move forward, do we? So if it's people like it, don't like it, I'm going to ask them. So that's where we're going to be with me.
Through the chair, I hope.
Yeah, through the chair.
Thank you.
I apologise in advance.
He's online, I hope. Inspector Fisher, are you there?
I am indeed. Good evening, everyone.
Nice voice, thank you. Did you want to give an update, or do you just want us to go in with questions for you?
I'll be guided by you, Chair. I'm happy to give an update. And to be fair, the update is probably just in line with some of the points I think that were raised at the last meeting, which I've sent updates for. But I'm happy to go through that as a general update if you're happy, Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
So look, I'll start with just a bit of a sweeping overview on some of the difference in structure and differentiations between operational policing, between the local policing teams, the community policing teams and the town centre teams, because I think it was questioned as to there was an issue of visibility for some of the officers patrolling streets, etc. And I think it was just maybe trying to get a better understanding of, well, if they're not out on the street, then what else are the officers doing? So it's a difficult one to answer with the sheer volume of things that officers have to deal with every day. But if I focus mainly just on the CPT and the town centre team, outside of patrolling, they will be managing hate crime and criminal investigations, attendance at courts, obviously arresting suspects, emergency incidents that may well come in. There's obviously a significant amount of time can also be spent abstracted to custody. If we have a prisoner that's been arrested, sometimes they need to be observed for long periods of time. That also can include lengthy stays at hospital as well. Preparation files for CPS, mental health crime investigations, community forums, safeguarding meetings, that are usually requested. As we've seen more recently with Operation Hazel, the community policing team and town centre team are vital in policing our local protests, and they'll be abstracted in a fair degree of significance to try and assist with those. We also have to deal with low-level drugs, gangs and warrants, criminal sexual exploitation as well as child sexual exploitation. Will also be supported by the CPT and the town centre team in conjunction with our MACE groups as well as the municipal liaison officers. They also carry investigations for importation of drugs by border forces and weapons, as well as the nighttime economy, licensing, etc. I could go on and mention obviously about our proactive approach to the many issues that are raised by the likes of yourself, councillors, in varying degrees, from low-level issues such as, it could be road safety, speeding matters, speeding operations, or weight restrictions issues on roads that we run operations to hold those to account, all the way up to executing drug warrants, drug grows, chop shops, in all sorts of formats really, and that list is certainly not finite, but a bit of a whistle-stop really of explaining that I can assure you the officers are busy, particularly those in the CPT and the town centre teams. They want to be out on their beats, they want to be engaging, and for every time they can, believe me, that's where I push, and that's what I'm really championing the officers to get out and get that engagement done, particularly on our towns. Where we need to be speaking and working with our colleagues from the business crime team. But it was just a context really around what else we also are involved in and what we're doing. There was also a question raised about Operation Caesar and our quad bike approach, obviously trying to deal with the blight that certainly has been off-road vehicle nuisance for when we've rolled out of lockdown, and the implementation of some of that we've dealt with. We did obviously finally launch that off-road vehicles team, which I'm sure you're aware of, about 5-6 weeks ago now, where we launched that on Alsett Heath and Shavell St Mary. We've already had some real good success with Operation Caesar this year. Our target was to issue 30 Section 59 warnings to off-road vehicle users in Thurrock by the end of the year, and we've smashed through that target considerably. We've already issued 71 to date. The aim is to hit 100, and I think with the implementation now of the quad bikes being used by my officers, that's only going to assist in, one, obviously the community confidence, but allowing us to hold those to account that think it's okay to drive in a manner as they do, continuing on our greenbelt land. I suppose some good points I could probably raise for you as well is that the injunctions in Grays High Street, we've managed to secure, mainly this was some really good work by our Operation Raptor officers in conjunction with Thurrock's town centre team and community policing team, formulated Operation Overwatch. Not good in the sense that Operation Overwatch patrols, the vast majority were covert town centre team and Raptor officers patrolling areas where we believed that the gang were operating. But as a result of that operation, which ran for 6 months and required a hell of a lot of duty hours, the main headline really is that the main 5 elders of the group have been charged, and interim orders have been granted against 8 key juvenile members of that group, and they're going to be appearing in a youth court in December to hear the case, and ultimately the court will decide whether to authorise those full injunctions, but we're very confident we're going to get all of those. We're also confident that we're going to further serve additional 8 adult injunctions, hopefully by December. And in essence, what I see that as is the beginning of an end of a blight on Thurrock in a gang that's trying to establish himself but never got off the ground as a result. So certainly something that mine and my team are very proud of, and the work done by the officers there. There was some mention as well around Chapel St Mary and some issues that were raised there, particularly around the fire that took place in the children's park. That was something that my team did a fair amount of work on, and I know some of the councillors I've spoken to you about the issues that occurred there. More so when we run some of our pop-up events and our Coffee with Cops in Chapel St Mary, despite the patrol that was taking place, it was highlighted there was some community concern around crime and ASB, and as a result, Thurrock Community Policing Team instigated Operation Reggie, which in essence was to provide additional reassurance patrols to address that, and mainly to try and increase that community confidence, ensuring that obviously these issues are being dealt with. The main headlines I can give you overall for Thurrock is that antisocial behaviour is down 54.2%, which is a staggering statistic, and we are comparing that outside of COVID statistics. And I see that down as the main indicator for our ASB that was called in over the last 12 months prior was primarily around off and on road vehicle nuisance, which I think for some of the efforts for Operation Caesar, as well as Operation Irish Lions, which is our car cruiser implementation, has had something to do with that. Violence offences are down. We've also fallen outside of what's happening in the rest of the county, and burglary for Thurrock is actually down 7%, particularly to homes. The rest of the county has seen a slight increase on that, so some really good work there by detectives from CID and our proactive units as well, targeting our offenders there. The only thing of note really is to mention is that we're aware that theft from motor vehicle offences we can see is going up. We've always had an issue with that in Thurrock, primarily down to the Lakeside Shopping Centre, of course, which would attract car thieves, but we've started carrying out data analysis in other areas, and we have highlighted that there are some pockets in the district where we're seeing an increase that needs to be addressed. We have an operation, which is Operation Iguana, already in place, which is both covert and overt patrols by both the CPT and the road policing units in those areas to try and deter and stamp out this. That's hopefully covering most of the points, but of course, look, I'm here. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sure you'll have some, whatever I can, of course.
Thank you for that. I've got to thank you because the Caesar operation is definitely working. It's really good. We haven't had, I as a councillor haven't had many complaints at all. Actually, I don't think I've had any in the last 6 weeks, which is brilliant. I'm not saying it's working all the time because you can't be everywhere with them. I know Councillor Muldowney wanted ward by ward, but trouble is with motorbikes, when they travel from Tilbury to Chadwell to Blackshots or whatever, they're never in the same place. So where they end up is where you charge them, and that doesn't always end up. They might have come through your ward, but that doesn't, you know, that doesn't come up as your ward. It'll probably come up with Tilbury or wherever they've ended up. So I think to do it ward by ward is a bit awkward to do. Can you just clarify that for me?
Yeah, of course. And look, we want to make sure the data we're using is allowing us to operate Operation Caesar efficient, which is what we've been doing. As it was outlined 12 months ago, we can't be everywhere at once, just like you said, Councillor, and I really appreciate the positive feedback. Thank you. We needed to make sure we focus on a top 5 locations to ensure that we was maximising our visibility at the target locations. You know, you are correct that we look at areas. For example, we break down the walls. I mean, Grays has got 4 separate walls in policing terminology. But if we just look at, as an example, Alsett Heath and the issues that Heath have been having, we know from looking at the route the off-road vehicles take, they will ride through, I think, 3 separate wards during the commission of a day whilst they're riding, and they go from the Heath over the bridge onto the green area there into the new estate where the tech college used to be, up through King Edward Drive, cutting through Hangmans and onto Blackshots, and then the circuit will continue. Where we've had success, obviously, is we implementate and wait at some of these pinch points. So you might have a rider or a driver that's been persistent over Blackshots that makes off, but ultimately, as you pointed out, Councillor, we ended up detaining them at one of our pinch points, mainly down in, for example, in Alsett Heath, where we can execute and deal with these riders. And, you know, it's one, it's thanking you for your support, but as well as that, we are finding more members of the public coming forward, you know, ensuring they're giving us the information and intelligence that allows us to not just catch them in the act, but also go knocking on people's doors, you know, 2-3 days later and hold them to account through road traffic offences, and where possible seize vehicles, take them to court and hold them to account. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are. And yeah, a detailed breakdown, I don't see it wouldn't serve any real purpose to the deterrent really of the behaviour in itself.
Thank you. I just feel that you are telling us, as you know I've said to you before, you're telling us, but we need to get this out to general public. So whether you use our comms or your own comms, we need to get that out to the general public, how good it is doing. You know, because with the motorbikes, I know Councillor Maney and I was the ones that instigated the motorbikes. We've been fighting for years to do it. And we've actually blocked some of their pathways off. As Jahir will know, we've blocked off where the allotments are with a gate at each end, so they've got no through road there. So they're having to find... And when the school gets finished, the fencing will go up there. That will stop another little bit of it from getting through. So it's where they want to end up. That's the trouble. Otherwise, they go back to going somewhere else. But I just feel that you've got to tell the British public or our residents what you're actually doing. You know, praise yourself occasionally for the good work you do. You know, you probably don't do enough of it. You know, we can only do so much, and we know that people don't want to. You know, I'm not going to ring the police because they don't do anything. You know, so I think this is a good thing where it has particularly, and I think it has worked. You know, and it is working.
Thank you, Councillor. I think the only point to come back on that is to say we try to articulate that through our local action group and our IAGs for our panels. Obviously, we have community forum members there that we, every month when we have the meetings, we articulate the returns and how we're performing and the positive results. And in detail, we will go into actual convictions if needs be, if we can. We make sure that our beat officers that attend Coffee with Cops and any of the community pop-up events in the various wards, that if there is news to report, particularly on ASB, because it always comes up when we visit and spoken to people, we go on with the statistics there. But I think we've spoken before offline, you know, Councillor, and I would agree that anything, again, that you can do to support and get those comms out, because you are right, Facebook, Twitter and the other platforms we've got, not everybody is going to see that despite us putting the really good work we're doing out there. So, again, always open to feedback how we can better engage with the communities.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold?
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, if I could just start with a question that I asked last meeting. I was subbing that night as well.
Sorry.
What is the average time that an officer spends on patrol? Now, I would say that's a fairly straightforward answer to give. You know, we live in a world of stats and KPIs, and I generally couldn't hazard a guess at how long what that would be. Now, obviously, hopefully you can give me the answer to that. But then, do you actually use this stat to actually try to lengthen that time that an officer is on patrol? Do you actually work on that to actually lengthen that period, so then that actually determines that you're actually doing the best efficient job you can with that officer?
Thank you. That's a good question. I suppose I'll try and answer it in two strands, if you put it. Do we have the data available to indicate to us how long an individual officer spends on patrol? It very much depends on the department. If we're talking about the local policing team, response teams, we can see how long that, you know, how many incidents that unit has attended. We can see through what we call our Operation GRIP patrols, which is specific patrols targeted where we believe weapon and knife or crime offences are going to happen. We can see via, I won't bore you with the reasons how, but through technical wizardry, we can see when units go into those areas. But measuring patrol for those units, as they're primarily there to answer emergencies, is not going to benefit the community and ultimately benefit us in the way we deliver that. If we're looking at units where their designated, should we say, role is foot patrol, and if we focus more heavily there, I think if we spoke on the town centre teams, for example, where being visible on foot, custodians on, walking down the high street and engaging with retailers, the communities in our hubs, in our local communities, yes, that is vitally important. Yes, we submit a return on a monthly basis outlining the amount of hours of patrol those officers have carried out. Why do we do that? Well, one, it's important for me as a manager to ensure that I know what my cops are up to and I can hold them to account when necessary, of course. But it's also a wider thing of understanding that the patrol and engagement is one thing, but just like I sort of pointed out, maybe with, you know, Operation Overwatch, we can have patrol where sometimes we're not visible. There's also countless hours that can be spent really benefiting the community sitting there investigating the crime and establishing the facts and maybe breaking down the strands of who that shoplifter is, contacting our colleagues maybe in other forces, which can sometimes take a whole day. So the return that we offer really is looking at not just the hours on foot patrol, which is great from a proactive standpoint, and it's great for the public, but in order for us to be effective and efficient in modern policing, our response has to be wider than just being visible. We have to make sure that we're spending time covering every strand that we have to in our roles, and that does include preparation of case files, which can take time to make sure that that's being done correctly and efficiently. It could be that we'll spend that time, like I've already indicated, investigating that crime, speaking to other officers, reviewing CCTV, which can sometimes take hours, so then we can locate that offender, we can arrest them, bring them before the courts, and we stop that individual committing crime in those locations themselves. So does that data assist in me benefiting officers? Yes, of course. If I see an officer that's just not doing their job, then ultimately that can be addressed, and that's what that data can be used to perform that. But look, we police by consent, and ultimately we want to make sure the public are happy with what we're doing. And I understand where, you know, having a police officer being visible more prevalently in an ideal world is something that I would love to have, but there's so many other strands to what officers have to do to keep our community safe that people aren't aware of, which I've tried to articulate in my general update. It's quite a difficult one. And I suppose to pass back to you, Councillor, as an offer, really, you are welcome, and I could arrange this maybe for you to come out on patrol spend a day with my town centre team or my community policing team as well to understand the differences of what they have to do. And we push it out and we encourage that to members of the public as well to see what we have to deal with on a daily basis, some of the challenges that are much wider than just being visible and responding to incidents and arresting suspects. And if that's something that you're interested in, Councillor, and by all means, you have my details. If not, please pass them on, and that's something we can maybe discuss and look at if that would be of benefit to you.
I would love to take you up on that offer. That would be extremely interesting. And I guess your response is actually kind of, you've sort of underlined maybe the way modern policing is changing. You know,
very much so.
People look for very much the visual police presence in the streets, but obviously we need to be appreciative that there is so much more goes on behind the scenes, which actually does contribute to the end product which we all want. So I'll be in touch about that visit. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you. In my time, having been out with the police and the Blues and Twos, it's good to see what they actually do. You know, some of it's frightening. You know, but it's good to get out there. You know, Councillor Byrne.
Yes, talk about motorbikes, cars and speed. The Manaway and Stamford, the racetrack. Are you making any inroads to that? Because if you look at Facebook, or I look at Facebook every Sunday, I don't think you're making that much difference.
And again, I think, and thanks for the question, Councillor, that the issue around car crews is something that, is definitely escalating. And we've always seen as far, unfortunately, since I was a PC, going back 16, 17 years ago, I can recall the car crews as being present over in West Thurrock. But you are right, that has been spread over into Corringham as well. What we're seeing from our intelligence is the significant meets that we call them, where we have spectators of 400 or 500 people and larger vehicles gathering, is still very much focused in or around the county, but we know West Thurrock and in Lakeside in particular is one of those issues, and where Operation Irish Lions is heavily focused. But we have seen as well, at times when we disrupt them, we've seen smaller pockets of the car cruisers heading over to the Manaway, driving recklessly and speeding. And I can assure you that I appreciate you saying the feedback from social media. My teams are in those areas of the hours, and bearing in mind that's usually at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when there's not a lot of people about, and they're there trying to keep those roads safe. Again, if we have, and I would really encourage you to employ your constituencies, even if they may feel there's no point, they're gone, or this, that and the other, the more intelligence we have around the times that they're going to these locations, the vehicles, the indexes, there's always things that we can do retrospectively after the event to try and hold these individuals to account. And we've had some really good results recently where, not at the time, but we've had large gatherings of vehicles or even vehicles racing, and my officers have carried out intelligence checks, identified the organisers of the events, so not just the people involved, but the people that are responsible for setting up the social media groups, and actually imposing on them criminal protection warnings, imposing sanction. If they do anything further, they'll be subject to arrest and conviction. But I take your feedback on board, and please encouraging constituents to continue to report it, and we'll make sure we see those operations deployed in those areas where we can.
Thank you for that. Just before Councillor Muldowney comes in, I don't want an answer now, but could you tell me if there's anything being done about the electric bikes? Is there anything in situ or anything in that government are bringing forward to do? Because they've always got dark clothing on, they get in the road and you just can't see them, you know, so I don't know how, you know, that's working.
Yeah, Councillor, and it's something that's regularly brought up at our IAGs with local concerned residents around e-scooters. The biggest issue that we have, and I suppose I would encourage you to look outwards on this and speak to the communities, and we've seen this with some surveys that other forces have carried out, there is a significant portion of the public that are supportive of these devices, and there is the other half, which is also just as significant, also is very much against them. But this is what's prompted government to look at trials across the United Kingdom of e-scooters being legalised, but only usually through, they have to be road legal, they usually have mirrors, indicators, lights, etc. that can be used. And I think the closest ones to us will be Basildon and Chelmsford, where you might have seen the e-scooters being used. It's as a result likely, and I'm not going to speak for government because I don't know their direction, but this is very much my belief on what the plan is going to be from looking at what's happening, is we have to understand that in the modern day things are changing. We all have got our views and opinions, and I think mine, Councillor, is probably more in line with yours, that they sometimes can be quite dangerous where they're ridden and driven, etc., by usually by a younger generation that haven't really got any experience or road awareness. And the danger, really, from what I've seen, is more the injury to the rider opposed to the public. But by virtue of that, I think it's something that hopefully government will come to a view as to what maybe the law could be set out, rather than us relying at the moment on road traffic law or more obscure offences when we catch these individuals and seize their scooters from them. Having something very clear and finite would allow us to do that. But I'm confident that we should see some development on that, hopefully, in the next year or so. But watch this space. From my perspective, no, there's nothing in the pipeline, nothing I'm aware of. It's just my views, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Muldowney.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a bit disappointed that you're not giving me the breakdown of the op-Caesar stats, although I'm glad to hear that they've gone up. Because you did promise that in the first meeting of the year, so I'm not quite sure why why there's a difference now. My question is about vandalism of trees, because recently I've been told by the council that to ask residents to report, so lots of trees have been vandalised, particularly on Alsett Heath. I've been told by the council to ask residents to report vandalism of trees to the police. I just want to check, is that correct? Because I've had some feedback of people that have tried to do that and they didn't really get a very positive response from the police on that. So can we just check that that is the proper procedure?
I think rather than giving an answer, I'd rather say that it depends very much, because if we're saying a tree's been damaged when we believe it's been kicked, it could also be speculatively, we're looking from a crime recording perspective. If it's not clear that a crime has taken place, that's maybe where the confusion has lied. But if we're looking at an ongoing crime series where we've got people actually targeting trees that have been planted on our estates and snapping them, certainly that's something that, even if we weren't going to record a criminal investigation, that is something that I would like reported to the police, because that's something that my team would be able to address and hopefully look at proactive patrols to try and deter the damage. And ultimately, even if it wasn't classed as a criminal damage as per the Act, which I have to review and check in with my own crime recording standards on that regardless, it's something that is antisocial and it would be classed as ASB, and therefore something that we can target and deal with.
Okay, thank you for that. Oh, can I just go back to a question, because you weren't able to be here for the last meeting. I did have a question about, we talked about the town centre police. I know this isn't part of the agenda today, but we weren't able to get these questions answered before. I just wanted to know, are they funded by the council tax rises?
I don't have the information for that question, unfortunately, Council. I don't know. I'd have to address that maybe to the PFCC or upwards.
Okay. I mean, if you could do that and get back to me, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
He just said he hasn't got that information, so I don't know.
I can't get that information for you, Councillor. That could be requested by yourself, maybe to the PFCC. I'm sure we'll be able to answer that in respect of council tax rise and funding for officers. That's just not something I'd have the information for or could request.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood you. Yes, okay, I will contact the PFCC.
Yeah, because as I said before, they've spent 10 years on the Police, Fire and Crime panel. There are no questions ever to the Police Commissioner, which I find really, but it's a bit like the council, isn't it? You only get one elderly man, usually, who asks the question in the council. So there is nobody that ever asks a question. We do, as councillors, when we're put on that committee, we do ask questions because we are there to hold him to account. And I would like to see more people. I think you could still do it on Teams. You don't have to be in Chelmsford. But I think we should ask him more questions.
I know residents from my area have certainly asked the PFCC questions, and the reply they get is that you can't answer the questions. That's the normal reply.
But you can put in to ask a question and then do it online while they're sitting in situ. So, and the question has to be put to him and he has to give you an answer. You know, if you don't, as Councillor Burns said a little while ago, if you don't put those questions forward, you can't expect anything back. You know, and we were always there to ask that. Not every councillor that goes on that Police and Fire and Crime panel asks questions, but we're there to hold him to account. And if we don't do that job, then, you know, it doesn't get anywhere. But I was baffled by spending 10 years on that and not one person ever came to ask him any questions. You know, he will come out to areas, and he has been out to areas, been to our full council, but I think sometimes if you really want a question answered, you have to put in to ask that question, you know, to him. You know, it's what he gets paid for at the end of the day. Councillor Byrne, did you want to come back in?
Yes, Coffee with the Cops. Many moons ago, when and even now, in the library, you basically get one man and his dog turn up because they're all old people and not really interested, just got to get a book out and all the cops there. I took one of the local businessmen down, it happened to be the vape shop, and he said, I'll get all ages in there, I'll give them free tea and coffee, and your police will be able to talk to every age range. And I was, for whatever reason, they said that's not the sort of thing we do. So is that something you would consider now? Because the library, it doesn't really work. Well, it doesn't work in Stamford. But a shop like the vape shop, you get everybody in there, and they would talk to the cops all day long.
Oh, thank you, Councillor. I mean, look, Coffee with Cops is simply about that. It is about engaging with our communities, and the more people we reach out to, the better. The locations, and similar to what you said there, you know, I've had conversations with other councillors highlighting that some of the other areas in other wards where we attend aren't you know, beneficial, but then we have another community forum telling us that it is. And look, we are listening. If that is an area where you feel we're going to get a good representation, stroke of the different members of the community, and it's suitable as a location, then absolutely, that's something that can be explored and looked at. And that's something that I could link in with my community engagement safety officers and some of the beat officers to see. We can go there and have a look. If we're getting the uptake and amount of people and the foot traffic there that we think would be beneficial, then yeah. I mean, look, free tea and coffee is never going to be a hard sell for cops to come down and talk to people, councillors. So absolutely, if it helps and it gets engagement with the local community, then I'm all for it and supportive of it.
Just to pick Councillor Byrne up on that, elderly people are interested in what goes on in the area, and they are usually the best people that do the work. You know, they're the people that do all the grass outside their home, or they'll look after the area outside their home. So I think elderly people are. Just picking up on that, whatever it is, coffee with the cops or tea with the cops. Gin and tonics, you could do that as well with the cops.
I'd love to, Councillor, but I think I'll be out of the job, unfortunately.
Are you actually doing it in Blackshot's car park at all?
I'm not aware of the location of Blackshot's car park. I could get that information for you, Councillor, and report back as to where the last Coffee with Cops was in Blackshots. Yeah. I do have the data, but not in front of me, unfortunately.
Okay, lovely. If you don't mind coming back with me, that's you know, with that'd be good.
No problem.
Councillor.
Yeah, just one more. We had Roger Hurst. We brought him to a meeting in Thurrock into Stamford, which was great, and we had a really good. But not one of your local team knew he was coming. Is there some sort of non-communication with Roger Hurst and your team, because our community cops didn't know he was coming, the two people on the beat didn't know he was coming. They were shocked when we told them your boss is coming. He went, we know nothing about it. So do you not talk to each other, or do you not promote that sort of thing with each other?
Well, in regards to the officers that attended and I believe the sergeant one as well, I spoke to the sergeant and the team a week prior. So if they're telling you that they wasn't aware that the PSC was there, then I'm very concerned, because clearly either I'm having a mental block, or when I was sitting there in the team briefing talking to my officers, who I see every single day from my teams, of the varying teams that I see them all during the space of a week. We do communicate. It is a bit of an issue, or a big deal. When our PFC is going to come to an event, it's absolutely something that would be cascaded to my team. So if that's what they've said to you, be it 1, 2 or 3 of them, surprising to me, and I'll take that feedback on board and speak to the officers concerned. I agree, though, it was good that the PFCC for come out, hopefully answered some concerns there, and some of the officers there were able to listen. And I've certainly got some points there that were raised that we'll be putting some things into action in the near future.
Before Councillor Byrne comes back in, I'd just like to say that out of courtesy, the Commissioner has got to let the local police know he's coming. That's out of courtesy. So they have to do that. Whether he likes it or not, he has to do that. Councillor Byrne.
Well, I met the PC in Morrison's, and we had a good chat, and he comes to our forum meetings. He doesn't seem to be a dishonest chap, and he said, I know nothing about it. That was on the Tuesday before the Thursday, so, and we didn't see any of our local cops there, so maybe I don't know. But.
I'm sorry, I've got to come in on this. I do find that absolutely staggering, actually, because there have been enough posters and street banners and things around the town to actually advertise.
Yeah, I'll put them all up.
I know, and so if they're saying they didn't know he was coming, I'm actually staggered.
It's a surprise to me as well, but it's one I'll probably speak to my team tomorrow over a cup of tea and just try and establish if they knew. But as I said it directly to them, that's just a little bit confusing to me. But nevertheless, look, it is what it is.
Councillor Chuckworth.
Thanks, Chair. You know, when you said that the antisocial behaviour is down by 54% in Essex, I'm wondering if Chadwell is part of that statistics.
So the statistic, Councillor, it is down overall for the county. However, if we just focus on Thurrock, then yeah, it's 54.2% across Thurrock, which is certainly one of the highest for the county. Of course, that includes Chapel St Mary. And
again, you know, the problem we have in Chadwell St Mary is big, and for the fact that, you know, the fire in the park, and you know, after investigation, nothing was found. It's still bothering us. And can you reassure us? Do you have any plan that such things will not happen in Chadwell again?
I'd love to be able to give you the reassurance, Councillor, that nothing like that's going to happen, in Chapel again. But unfortunately, I cannot predict what a criminal or someone potentially decides to go and do. What I can tell you is that for Chapel St Mary, for when we were addressing some of the community concerns, which I highlighted in my general update, was that there was the fire on the Heath, which was the pallets that were set light to on the small play equipment there, and a criminal investigation was carried out. I can tell you from there that when we had our Coffee of Cops events, that what was happening was that on social media, as a result of that one incident, we were seeing an increase in people being very concerned about antisocial behaviour, and sometimes people were putting posts on there which was, let's just say, taking what had happened and turning it very much out of context and indicating there was a real big issue in Chadwell. So much so that because of those community concerns, we launched Operation Reggie, which deployed a significant number, if not all of my CPT into Chapel St Mary over a protracted period of time to just really engage and reach out to the residents and give them some facts around, look, yes, the fire happened, there's no disputing that. But there were other incidents that were being reported to us which were factual. It didn't happen. And ultimately, look, there is, and I'm not going to say there's no crime in any of our wards, because of course there is, and we want to hear when there are concerns. But if we're going to focus on Chadwell and there being issues, my view at the moment is my team are doing their absolute utmost to keep Chadwell safe, and there is not anything that's been brought to my attention of any key note that I'm concerned about that needs to be responded to in Chapel St Mary.
Oh, thank you for that. Can I ask you one more question? How many hours of patrol do you carry out in Chadwell every week? I know Councillor has touched on that, and Lord has touched on that, but if you can just let me know how many hours of patrol you carry out in Chadwell. I mean,
It's a Sorry, Councillor, sorry I interrupted you. Please finish. Councillor, sorry, was you finished? I thought I interrupted you.
That's okay. Just to find out how many hours of patrol you carry out in Chadwell every week. Thank you.
Yeah. In regards to the town centre team officers whose designated role is to carry out foot patrol, that's a statistic that we'll be able to gain because obviously it's a return that happens each month. But as Chapel St Mary doesn't have any town centre team officers, that is patrolled and dealt with by our beat officers from the community policing team. The data to see how long they spend on patrol there, if we're talking about the Operation Reggie, when we actually have a specific deployment to go on foot or in vehicles to an area, we can return on that. But if we're talking about in general, the community policing team scope is so broad that the returns are just what they would do of, how long they're patrolling in an area for. Simply isn't a statistic that will allow me to enhance, should we say, the portfolio of our officers in how they're performing, but also reduce crime. There's so many other strands that those officers have to cover. Primarily, hate crime investigations are probably the most taxing and time-consuming that the officers have to take place. But it's not a statistic that I'll be able to offer you, unfortunately, Councillor.
Okay, Councillor Trickler.
Yeah, thank you. But just to let you know that actually visible patrol is needed, highly needed in Chadwell St Mary. If you can acknowledge that, please.
Noted, Councillor.
Okay, Councillor Maldini.
It's okay. My question just got answered.
About going back to electric scooters, especially the young ones, is there any data on any accidents that have been caused by these at the moment? Because I have noticed a few that they're all dark, they're wearing dark clothing, and they just whiz right in front of an oncoming car. And I wondered if there's any data of near miss, accidents or fatalities even in Thurrock.
Thank you, Councillor. There's no data to hand that I have in regards to casualties or road traffic collisions involving e-scooters. If it's something that you wish to explore, so it could be requested through the Freedom of Information Act or looked at. But if we're looking at resolving the issue, the data on, as I said before, Thurrock in particular, there have been a few, not many. There certainly hasn't been any fatalities or any serious injury road traffic collisions involving an e-scooter, certainly to the best of my knowledge while sitting in this chair, but obviously previously as the district commander for Thurrock as well. It more is around community concern. We have seen in some cases a lot of people championing the idea of how wonderful they are, allowing them to commute far more easily and get to the shops, etc. But there's others that have a lot of concern, particularly around the use of criminals using these e-scooters to facilitate fast transition to other areas. London in particular saw an uplift in e-scooters being used in criminalities and OCGs, which is something we're keeping an eye on, not something that we're experiencing in Thurrock, but is very much at the forefront of a concern of understanding, particularly in our high streets in town, where officers see e-scooters being used illegally, then action will be taken.
Has anybody got any other questions, Councillor? No? Okay. We're all questioned out for you. But come back any time. We'll probably find some more questions for you. But just to thank you for all your hard work that your officers are doing. I probably, would like to see a bit more out on the streets, but, we're not going to get that. We could say that you're going to put them out, but you've only got to not see them once and they're gone. So, you're never going to know if they've walked past your house or whatever. So as long as they're doing a good job, that's all that matters to me. As long as the job is being done, like the motorbikes, it has gone a bit further and it has worked better than we thought it would. So it's good. But thank you very much, Inspector Fisher. So pleased. Thank you. Michelle, did you want to come in with anything there, or are you quite happy to?
No, I think Terry managed to cover everything, didn't he? So I'm very grateful to him for coming tonight. Let me off the hook.
Took the flack off you, did he? Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the questions you've asked tonight. You can stay with us, both of you, or you can... I'm sure you've got other things to do, but you're welcome to stay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item 6, page 15, cleaner, greener, safer area, fees and charges, which is Jahir or Darren? Darren? Okay.
It's going to be me, Chair, thank you. I've got Jahir and I've got Vince on the line just in case there's any particular questions that committee want to ask around the fees and charges. But I'm not going to go through the report in its entirety. Hopefully everybody's had the opportunity to read through it. I'm going to pick out some poignant points that I think are relevant and happy to take questions after that. So this paper describes the fees and charges approach for all of the services within this committee group, and the remit is for 2023-24, and we'll set a platform for certain pricing principles moving forward into the future financial years. The paper provides a narrative on the following areas: arboriculture, sports or outdoor sports and commercial hire of open spaces, allotments, domestic waste, burials and memorials, environment enforcement and abandoned vehicles, registrars, theatre, heritage service and public protection. The strategic ambition for Thurrock is to adopt a policy on fees and charges that ensures that all discretionary services will fully cost recover wherever possible for future years, while reviewing charges, services, we'll also consider the level of demand for service, the market dynamics, and how charging policies will help meet other service objectives going forward. So the key areas to note in the report are outdoor sports and open spaces, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on these shortly. Domestic waste, burials and memorials, registrars and theatre. The other areas will pretty much remain the same and remain unchanged. So if we start with outdoor sports, the strategic objective for charging for outdoor sports facilities is to provide quality services that are competitively priced and to encourage optimum use and consequently maximise income levels, while at the same time introducing net subsidy in encouraging the council's wider health and leisure strategy. Currently, the cost of maintaining pitches is not recovered from the income that we generate, so the increases in this document will try to mitigate those. We've tried to use some new technology and other efficiencies to reduce the cost wherever possible, but we did say in previous years that it will be over a 3-year period that we'll have to increase the fees and charges to try to become cost neutral in this area. The majority of bookings are season-long bookings, and there is a discount for those types of bookings. What we have seen, and this is a new fee that we're hoping to pilot and to bring in, is we've seen an increase in the number of personal fitness instructors using our parks and open spaces. So we've introduced, or will hopefully introduce, a pilot permit licence for these people, so we can actually charge for them using the parks and open spaces. Whereas at the moment they get it for free. They gain the money for training these people, and we get nothing for it. So there's an outline in the report that gives a structure of what those charges will be. The pilot is at reduced cost at this stage. Other boroughs charge quite a bit more, and Jahir will back me up on that if there's any questions around that. But we started off at a reasonable cost to start the pilot, and then hopefully we can increase those as we go forward in future years. For domestic waste charges, we've undertaken a review of other authorities, and the fees and charges for bulky waste items, or the initial free bulky waste items, remains the same, but there's a small increase for the cost of any items thereafter. And we've also introduced an increase for the replacement of wheelie bins, and this is mainly because obviously the cost of plastic is increasing, and again we need to be cost neutral in this area. So we've increased on those areas as well. We've also introduced a cost for companies that buy bins from us as well. We've increased those cost of bins to those. So, allotments remain the same. Memorials and burials, the increases are pretty much in line with inflation increases for those sort of areas. The registrars, they've done an exercise that looks at other authorities and increase those areas, the same as the theatre services as well. So the information is in the report. I'm happy to take any questions. As I say, I've got officers here that may be able to interject if need be. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, I've probably got a couple at the moment. Jahir knows I will. So, just talking about on Blackshots Field, I can only talk about the field that I've got, 56 acres. We have got a lot of fitness going on there. We've also got a lot of football going on there with nets up, and I don't really know whether if they're having a game, if they've got 2 nets up, are they chargeable? We had trouble in Broadview Avenue. We've now put double yellow lines in there because they were parking in there instead of going into the car park parking. So that's taken away that element. So there are things that we can do. Just that we don't want to stop them playing football, you know. But when you're blocking people's driveways, they can't get out, then that is causing a problem. I just really want, if we're going to start charging, how will we get to those people to obviously to charge them? The other thing is, are we doing anything to bring clubs and bowls clubs and whatever they pay, are we bringing them into line? Because we've got some, I mean, I've got an old fees and charges where we don't charge somebody anything, and then we charge one club £1,000. So are we doing anything to bring those in line with each other? So we either charge everybody the same, because it doesn't seem fair sometimes if somebody's paying, I don't know, £3,000 and somebody's not paying anything for the hire a hall. So I think just those couple really, probably Jahir can answer. I just want to know, is the Lacey room in the Thames side? It hasn't got a page, Darren, so it's under the resident services. Yeah, registration. I just didn't
Double check it. I'm not 100% sure, but I will double check that for you.
It's quite a bit to hire it. It's quite a bit of money. It's 8 guests, it says. So
yeah, it sounds like it would be, but I'll
double
check.
I never heard of it, so I don't know. It's just those 2 really is all I've got at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll let Jahir come in, then I'll interject.
Thank you, Councillor. Just on the bowls charges, the fees and charges for bowls are the same for every bowls club. There's a difference where clubs have buildings that they lease from the council. So the difference in price is on the building that they lease and they manage under a lease arrangement. But in terms of the actual fees and charges, it's the same for all the bowls club. Most of our bowls club in the borough are now self-managed and they only pay £1 to the council. It's peppercorn because they're self-managed, so they don't actually pay any fees in council, but they look after and maintain the bowls green themselves. But there is a difference in the buildings. As far as I know, the unit rate per square foot is the same. So someone who has a bigger pavilion will pay a bit more. Someone who has a smaller pavilion will pay a bit less. There are some historic arrangements that we are trying to bring into line with new leases and having a standard arrangement for everyone. But there are a couple of historic arrangements where people have peppercorn rent for buildings that we are looking into.
Jahir, are we also looking at the leases then? Are we sort of looking at the leases of most of the clubs, like cricket clubs, football clubs that we've got?
So the leases have been reviewed. With the cricket clubs, leases have been offered. A lot of the land where sports clubs are based are actually charitable land under Thurrock charity. And previously we might have given a peppercorn rent, But when we look at Charities Commission law, it does say that the charity should be seeking best value and gaining as much income as possible. Colleagues in the property team have tried to balance that and try to get independent valuation, but try to get the rent as low as possible so the jump isn't too high, so that there is ongoing dialogue with all the clubs around those. But most of the sports clubs are in charitable land, Stamford Rec, Orsett Rec, South Ockenden Rec. Most of these are charitable land. So there is a balancing act where we have to get an independent valuation of the building because Charities Commission require that. But we're working with the clubs as much as we can, and we're supporting them with external funding to help where possible.
I mentioned the clubs now, but a lot of them have lost their funding because the leases are what they are, and they've managed to secure the funding to do it, and then the lease is still so old that there's nobody really knows how to change that lease and what to do with it, so they lose their money. So they have to find somewhere else to go to replace that funding. You know, when you've already got it and think you're going ahead with it, and then everything comes up with a lease. So I hope we sort of are speaking to most of the clubs, because it's what I hear back, that it's not working, you know. So I hope you're going around and having a word with them all.
We are, and we have done some works on most of the council pavilions, and we are investing a significant amount of money on most of the facilities, and we're partnering up with the clubs to make sure the work that we're doing is what they want as a priority. So we're not just investing money ourselves, we're talking to the club to make sure we're doing roof refurbishments and other works in a joint way, so it's beneficial for the needs of the clubs.
I don't know if this comes under Andrew, it probably does, but is it possible we could get, I don't know, 2 people from most of the clubs that run and get them in and talk to them and see if it's not what I'm hearing back. You know, I'm hearing back that we're not working with them with their leases. So I think it's something that perhaps we should do, you know, to bring them in and talk to them. At least that they know we care then, because it's the rumours that go round, isn't it? It goes to club to club and club to club, and people say, well, the council's not doing anything. And I think if we do, we used to do that years ago, was bring people in and let them talk to us, you know, and find out what their problems are. So maybe something Andrew can take up with that. Yeah, thank you.
What I'd say, Chairman, is if you've got specifics that are struggling to get, because I've had that in my own ward with people struggling to get, and you know, we have worked with Joe to get it resolved. So if anyone's got specifics like that, if they let me know, then I can take them up and try and speed them along.
Chair, if I can just answer the first part of your question with regards to football clubs as well. I mean, the purpose for this is around, you know, trying to regulate the use of parks and open spaces. Appreciate it's difficult in some circumstances when people turn up and unofficially play football matches on football pitches that they've not paid for. But the benefit of this process will be that they're registering for a licence. You know, personal trainers and groups like that will help them with social media, will help them with, you know, promoting what they do as well. So there's a plus side for them to be part of this scheme and part of this project to help them as well. So it's a two-way situation.
I only ask that because we've actually got a lot of footballs being played on, and I say I don't mind football being played, no problem with it, because you like to see the youngsters out there, but the trouble is it's a field for people to walk on as well, and when you've got so many football pitches, and probably I'm going to come in on Councillor Muldaney's patch now, but we paid all that money, 350,000 on the Heath, and I don't see it being used by many. You know, and it was all flattened out and it was all put there. Something was put there the other day in boxes. I don't know what that was for. But I don't see that many games playing on there. And all the changing rooms were furnished as well. I think, you know, I'd like to just see it spread out a little bit, you know.
So just to update you on Orsett Heath, we've put 2 new youth pitches on the Heath and they're used every Sunday. So there are junior teams using the Heath, and the 2 adult pitches on the Heath are being used, as well as the pitches on Chadwell Rec, which kind of joins Orsett Heath, and it's that same site. There is a lot of football. It's organised. It's mainly on a Sunday. There isn't many Saturday teams that use the pitches. We don't have any floodlights to have midweek training, but in the summer there are people who have a kickabout. But in terms of organised football, the Orsett Heath pitches have been maximised, and we've added 2 more junior pitches, so there's some increased use at that site. So I think that site is now at maximum capacity. There's 2 pitches at Chadwell Rec, 2 at Orsett Heath, and 2 junior pitches. So the challenge we have for so many teams, we just don't have enough pitches. That's just the honest challenge that we have. If we had 3G pitches, we could have had more usage of the same site, but on grass you can only have a maximum of 8 hours of use per week because of it gets churned up quickly, especially with the weather that we have now.
The 1 3G pitch we've got opposite Sainsbury's, I've been told that Thurrock people can't play on it now, and I was the one that did the funding for that with an officer. So that's what I've been told. I would like to know if it's true or not, because if that's true, the funding was got for Thurrock. But if they're being told they can't play football on that pitch, it doesn't seem fair to me if funding was gained from Thurrock and they can't play. I don't want to labour on it. You know, I don't mind if you come back to me afterwards. But
Happy to take that away, Councillor.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would. That's what's coming back to me. So, you know, it was put there for Thurrock people to be able to play football. Councillor Muldaney.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I've got a couple of concerns about the above inflation rises, which quite a lot of these are. Firstly, obviously, because having sat on the Health and Wellbeing Committee and seen the obesity strategy and also the new Health and Wellbeing strategy, we're supposed to be encouraging people to play more sport, to be more active, to, you know, get out and use our parks. And yet we're making rises to the people who actually are using them of above inflation at a time when there's a cost of living crisis, etc. I mean, I know I've been told about the Chadwell parks, the Chadwell playing pitches, that the goalposts are taken in unless there's a team playing, because the pitches aren't there for general public use, presumably, unless they pay for it. So we're not encouraging the general public to actually go and have a kickabout in a green open space without charging them money, and now without putting up the charges by, you know, some of them quite considerably above inflation rises. So over 60s bowls, for example, is over 20% rise. Has there been any kind of looking at what the impact of this might be on the other strategies that the council is bringing forward in terms of getting people out and more active in our green spaces?
Yeah, so thank you, Councillor, for the question. I think although the bowls seems like there's a 20% increase, none of the bowls people pay the fees and charges because they're self-managed, so they don't actually pay us any money. They manage the site themselves, but the fees and charges are still in there because we had a commitment to make the cost neutral within a 3-year period, and that's why the fees and charges have gone up. But all the bowls clubs in the borough are self-managed, so they look after and maintain their own pitch, and in return they only pay the council £1 a year for the use of the space because they're volunteering their time and they're saving that money that they would pay the council, and the council carries out less work on those facilities. So it's a win-win for the club because they're paying less, and it reduces the amount of resources that we have to invest in that project where previously we were making a loss. On some of the football sites, the reason why there is fees and charges, when the goalposts are out and the pitches are used, there is a lot of damage, obviously, that needs to be repaired after use. So if we left the goalposts up, we're not going to recover the costs. So that's one of the reasons why the goalposts are normally put back in. If we had made a surplus, we could have left the goalposts out and we could have reseeded it, and the teams could use, residents could use it throughout the year. So that's the reason why at the moment we put the goalposts back away. There are councils that do make surpluses and offer, the goalposts available all year round. Our fees and charges are significantly lower than our neighbouring boroughs, and we offer a discount. Most of the people who use the pitches are seasonal long bookings. So if they book a seasonal booking, they in effect get 4 matches for free. So they're saving a lot of money, and even with the increases, we're looking at about £1.50 per child or per adult over the season. So the increase is there, but it's a very small proportion over the season. And most, as I said, are seasonal bookings, so they're getting in effect 3 to 4 matches free if they do the seasonal booking. So clubs normally book a seasonal rate to get that discount, then they share it out. There isn't a restriction on a club on how many matches they can play. Some will play extra friendly matches, and so generally we tend to find people are regularly using those slots, and the clubs have been quite supportive of the fees and charges. Everyone wants the pitches to be a higher quality. That's the issue that we've had. But obviously, to make it better, we need to put more seeding down, and there's a cost implication. So the pitches are improving over the years. It just takes time and investment, and hopefully over the next 3 years we'll have better pitches and we'll become cost neutral.
So there hasn't been any you haven't looked at the impact on raising fees and charges to people's use of the green spaces?
So the use hasn't gone down with the increase in fees and charges over the past few years. We have the same number of pitches, and the pitches are oversubscribed. So we have more teams who want pitches than we have available. So that's the data that we have in terms of applications that come in. But there hasn't been a wider exercise to look at use of pitches without booking, as in recreational use. There is the active live survey carried out by Sport England, which shows the amount of people who are active in the borough, and over the last year, Thurrock has improved. We were one of the most inactive boroughs in Essex, but that figure, which is carried out independently by Sport England, where they phone and survey people, has shown a 0.5% increase in the number of people who are active. So that's the only data that we have that covers general recreation across the borough. It's the Sport England Active Life Survey.
And that's a 0.5% increase. Did you say? Sorry, can I just confirm?
Yeah, 0.5% increase in the borough over a whole period. When we look at a borough-wide increase, it's quite significant because Thurrock was one of the most inactive boroughs in the past, and to have a borough-wide shift, Sport England thinks it's significant, and they think there's a lot of positives. If, as I said, we could develop some more facilities and have more usage, then that number would go up. At the moment, we don't have many facilities where we can have high number of hours of sessions. So the grass pitches is only 8 hours of use that's permitted. After that, we can't officially let people play on those. If we have more sites that can be used more often, then the physical activity levels would increase. So that's something that's within the active play strategy that we're working on, creating more hubs where people can be more active, more throughout the day and throughout the week.
Can I just go back to what you were saying about the bowls? Because I don't understand why there's a fees and charges thing here if it's never charged.
So it was charged before. Previously, bowls clubs would pay the council the fees and charges. We would maintain the greens, and they would pay their season ticket to play. Over the last few years, we found there's a significant deficit between the income that we receive and the costs of maintaining the bowls greens. By working with the bowls clubs, we've come to a position where they've taken on the management responsibility for the bowls greens, and in return, they pay us a peppercorn amount. The fees and charges are still in the document, so in the future, should a bowls club say we do no longer want to be self-managed, the council has a fees and charges figure that's appropriate and that we can carry on charging. But at the moment, most of the clubs have taken on the self-managed responsibility because it saves them money and it gives them more flexibility on the contractor that they use and the level of service that they get.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've got to agree with her for a change. I agree with you. Because I've got 4 bowls clubs within Blackshots, and probably most people went against it in the beginning. But if you see it at the moment, it is beautiful. It is absolutely. They are doing so well. They're running. As I've said to them, you've got to work together. Otherwise, if you keep working apart, you'll never get anywhere. And as soon as they started to join up, and now they work together, they have meetings together, and I'm invited to most of their meetings. And it's working really, really well. And I can understand where the couple of clubs that we've got who don't, like Corringham, don't want to self-manage. I think it's because they're very elderly, a lot of them, and they haven't always got the funding abilities to go fund, because it takes a lot to run a club, and to fund it, to find the funding to do it. So I can understand why they don't want the worry of having to do it. But with my 4 clubs, it's worked. So there are some things that really do well. But I can understand with football, with overplaying, and that's what I think's happening on Blackshots at the moment, where it's just being overplayed, and it's just going to ruin the grass. And it's a shame we can't get a free pitch on there, isn't it? Really, somewhere. But I'm not going to say that. I didn't say that. Councillor Byrne.
Hi, Darren. You mentioned about charging for wheelie bins. Is it still a different price depending on how old you are? They still do that?
Yep, if you're over 60, there is a reduction in price, yes.
Okay, I've asked this many times. Why do you pay less for a bin for the same? It's the same price to empty. It's just, that's a weird one, that you pay less if you're a pensioner. Your bin is no less to empty, is it, than if you're 25? And a 25-year-old with their mortgage and things probably can afford it less on a pensioner who's on all their pensions. Surely that's got to change, isn't it?
I mean, it's for the replacement of the bin, councillor, but the issue is around affordability, and for those pensioners, sometimes it is a struggle. But yeah.
Not always.
No.
Sorry.
No,
they're not.
Why should a pensioner get less money for a bin than a 25-year-old who's struggling with his mortgage? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Anyway, carry on. But
it's like council tax, isn't it? 25% off. That's how it is. That's how the cookie rolls sometimes.
I've never been. The government gives you so much money. It's brilliant. Licences for exercising in the free fresh air. How much is this going to cost us, or cost the people that are doing it? You can license people to exercise in fresh air that's free, yeah?
No, they're charging people.
If you want to go and exercise on your own or with friends, absolutely fine. If you're
You're gonna
charging for it,
you're going to charge the people that are running the wellbeing classes,
They
yeah?
charge the people.
we're going to charge the people that are running the classes, yeah.
So they've got to put their fees up, so people might not be able to afford it. These people have 3 or 4 people, they get 20 quid for an hour, they're not earning any money.
This is for a year subscription, councillor, for them to have a licence to be able to do that. It also gives us an opportunity to do some DBS checks on them to make sure that they're capable and should be dealing with the public. No, I mean, people can go over to the park and do it for free, not a problem. But if they're charging for it, we think that, and we're not alone in this. Other boroughs are doing exactly the same.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, yeah, just coming back on that. I mean, I think there's a very subtle difference here. I think if people are paying for paid tuition, then that effectively is a small business. Now, that is an area we need to look at. There's a very, 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 very clear difference between people just going out and exercising, and I really do think you know that. A couple of oddball things. I actually wrote something down a little bit earlier on, and it might have already been covered, but it's a beginner question, and you know what they say. The increases, where they are they more about cost recovery than profit making for the residents? And the really beginner question is, if there is a surplus, what happens to it?
Well, I mean, to answer your question, the main goal here is to get cost recovery, and you know, with regards to some sports elements that Jahir has referred to, then absolutely this is what we're trying to do, to try to increase the quality of outdoor sports for residents, to try to encourage residents to do more. So cost recovery is the first goal. With this new one that's coming in for the use of parks and open spaces for training purposes, as you say, it's a fact that these people are earning money out of other people, and they're using our facilities for free. So that will be a new one. So that's slightly different. But the money that we get from that will go into improving our facilities in parks and open spaces and future sports.
Okay, and then just the other sort of curveball question. I mean, I haven't noticed it, I must confess. There's obviously going to be something in there about the permit charges for commercial vehicles in the refuse centre, in the dump, shall we call it. I think that's a little area you might need to look at. I am a regular visitor with my brown waste now, with my green waste, because I generate a lot and I've got no other way of getting rid of it at the minute. I've quite frequently see vehicles in now which are very clearly commercial vehicles, i.e. something like a Land Rover, large vehicles, big side windows. Now they are exempt from permit use, aren't they? I believe, because they've got side windows. Now I've been in there many times and seen that they are clearly commercial vehicles. The guy in the truck gets out, when the Land Rover gets out, overalls, clearly a working guy, and they are tipping trade waste. Now, I kind of took exception to it the last time, so I actually went up to the guy on the gate, and I got him just to explain to me what the criteria was for trade waste. He showed me the picture on the board. Obviously, he's got a side window. I think this is an area we really need to sort of revisit. Maybe some education for the guys that operate that site. There is a flagrant use of that rule. People are dumping trade waste there, and we do not know what it is, and they're getting away with it for free.
So certainly an area we can look at, Councillor. I mean, the manager down there, if I speak to her about this, she is very, very positive on this, that no commercial vehicles should be going in there. It's a difficult area because, as you say, if somebody comes in, you know, our team have to identify those and decide whether they are commercial or whether it's home use only. So it's a difficult area, but happy to speak to the manager down there and see if there's anything else we can do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I do appreciate it's a grey area, but I think when you see it happening, it's pretty clear. And all it takes is for someone to actually challenge the driver and maybe establish where the waste has come from.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the further director delegated authority will be sought via Cabinet. Now, it's just because it's been highlighted in a different way in this report to the way that I'm used to. Are we anticipating that this is going to be necessary?
That's on the recommendations, isn't it?
No, it's page 15. Well, yeah, it's on the recommendations as well.
Yeah. Would it be better to wait till we get to recommendations?
Yeah, but I mean, it's within the report as well.
Okay.
Are we anticipating that that's going to be needed? I'm just wondering why it's been highlighted. I mean, normally it's sort of like buried in the...
Yeah, it's in the recommendations because obviously that will be part of the recommendations. It's difficult for me to say, Councillor, to be honest. It's in there just in case it is needed, I believe, but difficult for me to say.
So this is not... This is the same as usual? There's normally an element like this, but it's normally in section 4.
I
I
believe it
just
is.
wondered why has it been highlighted and why has it been highlighted as a recommendation?
Not 100% sure, to be honest, but it's normally in there, as you quite rightly say. It's probably just a different format.
Okay. And just to make sure that it's minuted that I'm not in favour of above inflation rises to any of the fees and charges. Thank you.
Just to say that, Councillor O'Donnell, I was always going to bring that up on recommendations anyway, because I didn't quite agree with the way it was worded. So I think it could be worded in a better way, but we'll go into that on recommendations. Councillor Byrne?
Yes. Councillor Arnold mentioned about the tip. It made me think of why the capacity was cut down for COVID and we put them little lanes in, and now it's not. We've still cut it down. Is there a reason why we're cutting the same? There's still cars going in and out, but there's no COVID anymore, so we just cut it down for what reason now?
Yeah, I mean, we did an exercise. I mean, COVID forced us to put those implementations in place, Councillor. You're quite right in saying that. What we did was we reviewed after COVID and thought, you know, that the practices that we put in place were actually extremely good for health and safety and made the site much safer than it was before. Appreciate that it was different in the first instance, but we got a health and safety officer down there to give us some pointers, and we checked the risk assessment, and those things that we put in place has made the place much safer than what it was before. So we decided to implement those changes.
Thanks, Darren. If we're looking at health and safety, I think the steps that are there have been there years. There's more health and safety than anything, you know, because when it's icy, and I've obviously done my knee in, but getting better, but I can't manage them stairs up and down, and you know, to me that's and having been to many now refuse places and had a look, we are way behind, you know, and yeah, that if health and safety have been there, they should have actually said that is a dangerous place to be, to ask people to go up those steps and then come down the steps, you know. So we need to look at that, and I know probably it's on Andrew's rector scale to look at it anyway.
We do have staff down there, Councillor, that will assist where necessary.
Well, I was refused the other day, Darren. I was refused somebody to help me go up there, and I couldn't manage. And there was two ladies in a, I don't know, Land Rover, and they offered to take it up for me, which I thought was so nice. And you know, you don't find that very often. And probably if I'd have had my badge on, I'd have been more inclined to argue with him, but I didn't. And it was just nice that there was people there who would help. You know, I couldn't have I might have got up there, but I probably wouldn't have got down. So
I'm happy to say it that way.
Dangerous, yeah, very dangerous, yeah.
So I just sort of agree. I've been there before when there's a lady with a big carpet and the staff flatly refused to help. I had to help her out. So that does happen.
Goes against what our rules and regulations are, so I'll pick that up with the individual. I'm happy to take it away and have a look at it, Councillor. I think that's in there just in case anything comes in part through the year to so that we can get them through. But happy to take it away and look at particular wording.
Not been too bad this evening, but I just don't agree with that. It just seems to open up this committee to
Any chance?
Yeah, to make the charges more. And we're agreeing that as they are now, and that's 1.2 isn't how I would like it. Councillor Muldowney.
Just to say that I don't agree with above inflation in charges, as I just said. So I don't agree with 1.1 either.
Is that worded, again, just for education, really, is that worded just in case there's any change in sort of government legislation with regards to things, so it's kind of, it's open, basically?
I think it's there, Councillor, as I say, just in case there are any charges in year that need to be introduced, for various reasons. But I'm happy to take it away and look at the wording, Chair.
Can I say that I don't agree in 1.1 or 1.2 because of the cost of living and inflation?
Councillor Byrne.
Yeah, could we bring that back and say the fees cannot go above the cost of living? I mean, this I'm seeing on there 30%, it's 20%, it's 11%. So it's mind-blowing figures, isn't it? Nobody's. Yeah, everything's going up and up and up, and we just seem to get on the bandwagon. It's 1.2. It almost reads it in charge what you like when you like. We can change it throughout the year to what we want. So, a bit worrying that one. 1.2 definitely can't be in there.
I think probably because it covers an awful lot of stuff. You know, it covers everything from burials to, you know, right through to public protection to outdoor sports. It covers everything. So I think we just need to word that a bit better, or I go to cabinet and we say it there. So it means we go to cabinet. Is it everybody go? I don't mind going to cabinet and asking.
As there's been a few people aren't happy with the recommendations, can we have a vote on it?
Yeah, yeah. A vote that we go to cabinet.
Well, could we vote on the recommendations?
Well, we've already said that we agree 1.1, but we don't agree 1.2.
I don't agree 1.1,
Without
and Councillor Chuckridge just said that he doesn't, and so is Councillor Byrne, I think. So.
Well, we've noted the revised fees, so we've noted the fees that are there. If we haven't all looked at them before now, then 1.1 is what we've just looked at. You know, and if we haven't got any real concerns on what's happened at the moment in the fees that have been done, my only worry is that we're giving somebody carte blanche to up the fees again. So if we perhaps let Darren come back to us with another wording for 1.2, and then we'll give a vote over email. And if not, I'll go to cabinet and.
No, what about 1.1 then? We keep mentioning 1.2.
Well, I think 1.1 we've agreed with what.
I haven't agreed.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. I mean, we've looked at the fees and charges on 1.1. We've got them in front of us. If we're not happy with them in front of us, then we should have brought that up now.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Well, I have brought it up twice.
Well, we have. All of us have said something, but there's nothing in there that we can actually say is really wrong. I don't think so. Anyway, I haven't come up against anything that I pulled out and thought, and we've all asked questions on that. So 1.1, I could agree with to a certain extent, but 1.2 I don't.
Well, I'm not agreeing 1.1.
Can we have a vote on agreeing with the two recommendations then, against both recommendations?
Yeah, I'm against
Is
both.
that just Councillor Muldowney? Councillor Byrne?
It's getting a bit confusing. Can we have a proper procedure?
I just
from the
said to
chair?
vote on 1.1.
Okay,
Is everybody in agreement or not in agreement?
I'm in agreement.
Not in agreement.
Who's not in agreement? Who's in agreement?
Well, we've got 3-3, I
in
think.
agreement.
3-3 in the chair.
We've got 3-3. No, I'm
chair
included
carries
in
it.
the 3, aren't
Oh,
I?
that's fine, yeah.
So we're 3-3 on that. So
Chair carries it.
and 1.2. I think none of us are in agreement with that.
None of us. No.
No. Okay. So either means we go to cabinet, or we let Darren come back with some more words for 1.2.
Yeah, can I suggest that that I take this away, see if there's a formal words that I can change them to, send them out to see if the committee's happy with those.
Yes, you can let me see them first, Darren,
yeah.
and then we'll go out to the rest of the membership.
Sure.
Yep. Okay.
Can I just ask for the minutes that the votes be recorded, please?
Yeah, they will be. Rhiannon's just done that. Okay. Okay. Right, item 7, last one. We've now gone past 9 o'clock. Cleaner, greener. It's Darren, yes? Gavin, sorry. Yeah. No.
Right, okay. We've actually got Peter Bond online who will go for an introductory report for us. I'm happy to take any questions in conjunction with Peter if the need arises, basically.
I'll just come in and apologise to Vincent because we haven't brought him in at all this evening. So, Vincent, I hope you haven't sat there and not enjoyed it.
No, that's fine, Councillor.
But as you speak to me all the time and probably get fed up with it.
Not at all.
So we hope you'll stay till the end and then, enjoy it. Thanks to her.
Will do.
Sorry, Gavin, was that you just wanting me to introduce the report? Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chair. My name is Peter Bond. I'm the Air Quality Officer for Thurrock Council. This report is the annual status report on air quality. It's a statutory obligation pursuant to our obligations under Part 4 of the Environment Act. And we've got 18 air quality management areas declared in the borough. And as a result of that, we have air quality action plans for those as well. And we have to produce an annual status report on air quality, which runs through all of the data produced for the previous calendar year, as well as the council's actions taken to improve air quality within those areas. And that's exactly what this report does. So essentially, it's just a data rundown. And the recommendation of this is that the committee note the report. There's not any kind of groundbreaking changes noted, just a general improvement as seen in previous years in air quality across the board. And a recommendation that 2 of the air quality management areas be revoked. That's AQMAs 15 and 16, where air quality has been compliant with the national air quality objectives for which those AQMAs were declared for the last 5 years. That's pretty much all there is to say on introducing the report.
Thank you, Peter. Gavin, did you want to?
No, I'm obviously happy with that introduction. If anyone's got any questions, either myself or Peter will hopefully be able to answer, or we'll take them away and find the answers if we can't tonight.
Well, it's good to see, for my part, it's good to see London Road is the worst place for the emissions, because it's going to be, isn't it, with all the housing and traffic and that travel down London Road, and obviously you're back onto the industrial bit in Purfleet, so it's going to be one of the worst. Just wanted to ask one small question, Peter. Coma sites, do they give off any emissions at all? The coma sites that we've got?
Yeah, all regulated by the Environment Agency. So what we do is we've got our monitoring network. We've got a network of nitrogen dioxide diffusion tubes. I believe we've got 69 of those and 4 automatic air quality monitoring stations, which monitor a variety of different pollutants. So if pollution emissions are bringing concentrations above the kind of statutory thresholds, then we pick that up, but we don't monitor emissions. That's down to the Environment Agency because those sites are regulated by them.
I can add to that as well, actually, because coma sites, there's possibly more than one answer to the question there. Peter's quite right. Most of our AQMAs are declared for road traffic as opposed to, all of them, I think, Peter, aren't they, for road traffic pollutants?
That's correct, yeah.
As opposed to industrial. Now, industrial sites, like the coma sites, that are regulated, they're regulated by and large by the HSC or the Environment Agency, as Peter says. We do have an involvement from an emergency planning perspective in those sites, though. There are issues, there could potentially be issues with emissions of chemicals from those sites. They're not actually, by and large, the problems we would be talking about, though, aren't a case of monitoring our air quality monitoring stations and in time feeding back on levels of pollution. There could obviously be chemical releases that would be more acutely harmful, and by and large they are dealt with by the HSC and by a separate planning and exercising regime under the control of major accident hazards regulations. So, for example, where a site might emit chlorine, which could be extremely detrimental in the short term, there are specific plans and measures in place, for example, perimeter monitoring of that site for the particular chemicals that could give rise to harm that have been identified specifically as part of that industrial process, as opposed to, for example, PM10 or oxides of nitrogen, which arise from vehicles in general, as it were. So there are specific arrangements in place, but that falls outside of the local air quality management, which Peter's responsible for. That falls under the HSC, the Environment Agency, and our emergency planning teams in certain circumstances.
Just thought it was worth asking, because a lot of people don't know about coma sites, and they don't know they're on our peripheral, on our river, and so it needs to be sort of spoke about, really, so that we know. I think I did see a bit in here. Obviously, our only way of taking the pollution down is to get cars off the road. We're not going to get that amount of lorries off the road because we need logistics. I thought that Tilbury 2 was going to take some of the more of traffic off the road by sending it by rail, but whether that's happening or not, I don't know. Is that something that...
I think it's to be noted that there's as Peter said in the report, there's a general downward trend in relation to most of our pollutants, certainly NOx and most of the others across the whole borough. Some of that will, obviously the traffic hasn't gone away, so to speak. Some of it will be as a result of things like improvements in the design of motor vehicles and engines. So it's not necessarily something that we would have a direct influence on, but we could be beneficiaries of. We tend to be clear, we would tend to monitor for air pollution as the council, and we would highlight, it would be Peter's role to highlight issues that might arise. We wouldn't necessarily always directly have the levers to deal with problems. The kind of things that we might do in terms of air quality management areas is offer advice to our highways teams in relation to things like removal of obstructions that might increase air pollution, our planning teams in relation to the siting of particular buildings. So you might advise against siting a school playground right next to a highly polluting road. You might want to put that into, say, I don't know, like logistics storage or something like that, where people are only transiently there, so the effect on them, their exposure to it is less. But we obviously can't just close the A13 or close the trunk roads, so the benefits that we might have seen are likely to have accrued as a result of things like improved highways design by Highways England, improved vehicle design and that kind of thing. But nevertheless, the trend is on the improving slope, basically. Hence, some of
Thanks,
the
Gavin. Yeah, obviously, I think it is somewhere in here, isn't it, about the river taxis. Hopefully they're going to come on board, which may take a lot of traffic off the road.
Yeah, anything like that, like our active transport policy that our highways team, people like Matt Carley, promote, that would also have that effect. Not only is cycling better for your own health, it also reduces your contribution to the pollution levels, basically.
Has anybody else got any questions? Councillor Maldoni?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. So a few things. Page 56 was my first one. So I just wanted to say thank you for the section about how the public can get involved and can assist in air pollution matters. That's very useful because I do talk to a lot of people who are very concerned about air pollution. So it was good to be able to go and access that information. And quite a lot of it is actually connected to the council's website, so I wanted to say thanks for that. Page 76, I had a question about PM 2.5. Obviously, obviously fairly recently there's been further research about this particular very fine particulate matter, which has shown that it does have a much more significant impact on health than originally thought, even at very, very low concentrations. So obviously the World Health Organization has brought out new figures, although there's no safe levels, they say. But their figures are, I think, 5 micrograms per cubic metre. My question on page 76 was, why are the 2021 figures estimated?
So I don't actually have the report in front of me. Can you tell me which figure it is or table that you're looking at?
Sorry, it might be the case that it's not so much that they're estimated, it's that they haven't been ratified by DEFRA yet. Is that the case? That's usually the case for these things, isn't it?
Do you want me to read out the bit? Maybe that will help.
Yeah, please.
It says the estimated concentrations at the same sites, because it's talking about estimated PM 2.5 concentration in 2020. The estimated concentration at the same sites, which was Thurrock 1 and Thurrock 8, in 2021 were 12 micrograms per cubic metre and 15.5 micrograms per cubic metre respectively.
Yeah, so what that's based on is basically DEFRA has a factor by which you can estimate PM 2.5 concentrations from monitored PM 10 concentrations. So what that is that we don't have PM 2.5 monitoring in those monitoring stations. So that's an estimate because of that.
Okay, but we are monitoring PM 2.5 at, I think it was 3 sites? Is that right?
So
we're doing this estimation based on PM10.
No, so we have been monitoring it at 2, which is the Stamford Le Hope monitoring station and the Tilbury monitoring station. And we've just recently had put in a new monitor for PM 2.5 and a whole suite of other PM sizes at the Grays monitoring station as well. But we won't get data from that until next year's report or even the following year.
Okay, thank you for that. That answers that question. Just because probably you'll be more up to date about this. Obviously, with the new Environment Act, the government were going to be bringing in new levels for PM 2.5, and obviously the World Health Organization, and in fact the government's own Committee of Medical Effects of Air Pollutants have changed their levels. They've reduced from the 25 micrograms per cubic metre. I think they're both recommending the 5 micrograms per cubic metre. What has the government now? Has the government now committed to new figures? And if so, what are they? Right.
No, that decision's been delayed, unfortunately. So we don't have a new threshold yet.
Right, so that was supposed to be before Parliament in October, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, that's been delayed.
Okay, so so obviously that's going to bring changes at whatever point they set those new figures. Have you got any idea of the timescale on that?
No, unfortunately not. Sorry.
Okay. I mean, I think it's worth saying about PM 2.5 because, the dangers are significant to those with pre-existing conditions, and also the young. It can actually stop children's lungs developing properly. That the levels that are currently being reported are above what the World Health Organization and the government's own advisors consider to be no risk or very low risk to health. So although it's great that we've got this reducing pattern, we're still not safe. I don't think we could be too complacent about levels of PM2.5. And I just wondered, is any work being undertaken to address the impact of the Lower Thames crossing on air pollution in the borough? Because obviously they don't have to measure their route operationally or in construction against PM2.5 at the moment, and probably won't have to because they're going on old road policy. So what are we looking to do to make sure that we're actually protecting our residents from?
I mean, I think I can help there, and obviously Peter can join in if need be. We obviously, the way our pollution monitoring works is that we've got fixed stations. We've got 4 there, and we've got 69 monitoring points. That's considerably more than most neighbouring boroughs. So, for example, they don't have any fixed stations in Brentwood at all. They do have some of the diffusion tube type monitoring. So we do quite a lot. But in addition to that, what we are doing now is we're commissioning some air quality modelling. Now, how that works basically is that they take the data, because the way it works is that we've got fixed locations where we monitor across the borough. Now, we can't obviously have a diffusion tube in every square inch of the borough. That wouldn't be possible. So what the modelling does is it extrapolates with that data, and it effectively gives you a map of the, people are a lot more clever than me, quite frankly, use computer programs to give you a map of what they would expect the pollution to be given those data inputs. We're doing that at the moment, and we would also likely do it based on the results of the Lower Thames crossing, if that comes in, because then that would give us the actual, the change, if you like. We'll have that historic picture. But also, we're likely to be called upon to give comments on the proposed route when they finalise it for the Lower Thames crossing. Part of those comments will be, there'll be comments on noise pollution, but there'll also be comments on air pollution. And we would estimate from things like traffic use figures the impact, if you like, of the Lower Thames crossing on the surrounding areas. And I think it's likely, you can't hold me to this, but I think it's likely that you will see potential reductions in West Thurrock and Purfleet if there's a bifurcation of the traffic, if you like. So if you split the traffic flow, so it's likely to increase in the immediate area of the Lower Thames crossing and perhaps reduce on the Dartford crossing as is, because obviously you might reduce the traffic flow. But we can't really be sure of that. But we'll certainly give the best estimation based on scientific extrapolation that we can. It's likely that the council will do that, and as a result of the high profile nature, if you like, of the LTC, it's likely that we will get what assistance we require by way of external science, whatever the case might be. So that's what we would be doing.
Great, that's really good to hear, because I do feel like air quality, air pollution is slipping through the net of regulation, particularly in terms of the Lower Thames crossing, and certainly, PM 2.5, which is the most harmful out of the particulate matters, is more harmful than PM 10, is not really getting monitored, well, by the LTC, by National Highways, is not getting monitored at all during construction and operational phase, because policy is that step behind what we know is now harmful.
Well, I can't comment essentially on sort of national
Can I
highways.
just stop you just for 1 second? We're coming to the end of our meet. Is anybody happy for it to just go on for 10 more minutes? Yes? Okay. Thanks,
Yeah,
Rihanna.
obviously
Sorry,
can't comment
Gavin.
for Highways England and the construction phase in general. What I would say is that most of the particulates we're monitoring, as mentioned, are from road traffic. So whilst there will be issues associated with the actual construction phase, some of them might be more around dust, which is probably not PM 2.5 or PM 10. It's probably PM 250 or something like that. So you're more likely to just have to wipe your windscreen rather than affecting your lungs. So there will be nuisance issues potentially, but they won't necessarily be in the PM 2.5 range. There's probably going to be other issues, I would suggest. It will be when the road is in use that you would then expect that increase.
Yeah, absolutely. From the spaghetti junction, that's like that's going to be if it goes ahead, will be the junction with the A13, which is obviously very close to quite a few people's houses, an old people's home, a couple of our schools. So it is really worrying from our perspective. The other thing is just coming from that. Can I just flag up one thing about increases from the Highways England's own report of nitrogen dioxide near one of our local schools? But I mean, maybe I'll send you the details of that offline so that you can be made aware of that.
Yeah, happy if you could, and obviously myself and Peter can consider that, and we'll obviously advise as best we can in relation to that.
Right, thanks.
Thanks, Karen. I only wanted to ask one question. It's also on page 76, but it's got introduction of weight restrictions enforcement to discourage HGVs. Discourage them in what way?
Well, weight restrictions are something that's peripheral in a sense to what we do. It's not it's not directly an air quality, but if you reduce the volume of traffic, so if you reduce the number of HGVs, which is a component of traffic, to wit, you would proportionately reduce the air pollution element that they contribute to. Weight restrictions are usually dealt with by highways. There can be a variety of reasons for that. Primarily, it's normally it'll be things like road safety, or if you've got bridges that won't actually support a lorry of that weight, but they could coincidentally reduce the traffic flow, which would reduce pollution. You might, for pollution and other reasons, seek to introduce weight restrictions for large lorries in, say, residential areas as opposed to trunk roads, for example. You're actually stopping the lorry going down the road, so to speak. So it's not actually parking per se. If they're not supposed to be down there, they would not. They shouldn't be parked there, obviously. But there are normally exemptions for things like domestic deliveries anyway. So it's something that would be enforced by highways in general.
Cheers, Councillor Chakwa.
Thanks, Jess. Thurrock was described as one of the most polluted areas in the country. I'm asking if that narrative has changed, and what is the current level of air quality in Thurrock?
I think that's something I'll let Peter advise on.
Sorry, my laptop kicked me out of the meeting for a second there. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, Thurrock was described as one of the most polluted areas in the country. I'm asking if that narrative has changed, and what is the current level of air quality in Thurrock? Thanks.
Yeah, that's absolutely changed. That's certainly not the case anymore. So actually, we've got quite a positive picture really at the moment. We've only got one of our monitoring sites that exceeded the annual mean concentration limit for nitrogen dioxide. Every other site that we've got has been compliant this year, and most of them have been compliant for quite some time. So I think it's difficult to answer the question of what the concentration is or what the level of air quality is across the whole borough, because obviously it's a varied picture depending on where you go. If you're close to some of the main roads, then sometimes the picture can be not so favourable. For example, as was previously mentioned on London Road in Purfleet, that's our one site that's not compliant at the moment. But yeah, across the board, generally speaking, it's quite a positive picture.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need more trees. Take all the pollution. I think we'd be very surprised to know how much one tree actually takes out the pollution. So perhaps we do need a few more woods to take that, out of the system. Yeah. Do you agree, Peter?
Not quite. No, sorry. So unfortunately, as is usually the case, the answer is a little bit more complicated than that in air quality.
Yeah.
The trees can actually have a detrimental effect, because if you plant trees, then what they can do is they can reduce the dispersing effect that wind has, which is a kind of diluting effect on concentrations of air pollution. But what you can do positively with green infrastructure is to block or lengthen the pathway between a source of air pollution and its receptor, which is the person who's breathing it in.
Thank you, Chair. Just for the record, because we said this, I think, before the meeting actually started being recorded, that the Waste Services report is going to be a written report and not a verbal update.
Yeah.
So just for the record, thank you. I'm not saying in place of it, I just wanted that recorded. It's going to be a written report. Thank you.